On the first night that we discovered that we could walk on the grassy mats that are over the water, we found a snake that I now know was somewhere in the order of 25 to 27 feet long. The only measurements that I know from this snake is that I jumped on this snake, tried to wrap my arms around it, and I couldn't touch my fingers. And I know this because on the grass, as I was being propelled forward, I was basically riding a snake. And as I'm being dragged across the grass, the mats are porous. They're floating in the water. And so I shoved my hands under to try and couldn't do it. That's how thick the snake was. And so
I don't know if I ever told you this, but when I was growing up, I had a jungle room. It was like my obsession. Animals were my obsession. Seriously.
Really?
It was all like everything in the room was themed that way from the time I was 3 years old on because I loved animals so much. And then when I got older, I'm from New Jersey. You live in the cities. You go about your life. You get the job that's not in the middle of the Amazon, right? But reading in your book, Mother of God, about how you always had this bug and were so obsessed with animals as a young kid and always knew that was your calling. To see how you treated animals growing up is so cool because I would read things like you would go rescue eels from the local bait store and put them out in the wild just to say you did it. You'd raise praying mantises. You'd take in loose animals you found and raise them as your own. It's such an amazing thing. And does it ever hit you that your whole life is pretty much full circle from where you were with the wonderment of a child?
yeah, I mean, my earliest memories are animal related. I remember, I grew up, my parents had golden retrievers. I remember rescuing the eels. I remember, I guess parents show their kids, you have like your Tonka truck and you got your Legos and you got your animal books, it's like, what do you give kids? And I just gravitated towards the animal books. And I remember my mother reading to me, explaining the difference. How do you tell the difference between an Asian elephant and an African elephant? And I remember, I was talking 2 years old. And then loving snakes and loving Steve Irwin and loving Jane Goodall. And then, it's interesting always to go from something you love that you want to do. As a kid, it was go out into the woods, survive in the wild in, the upstate forests, upstate New York forests. And then getting to the point where it was like, okay, I want to go see the Amazon. I want to go see nature turned up to the max level. And of course, the Amazon, as soon as I read that in the entire fossil record, there's never been anywhere that has more species terrestrial in the entire forest record. It's not just on Earth today. This is the most life there's ever been. And that to me, that sold me. I was just like, okay, I'm going to the Amazon. That's what I'm doing. And so, I was always a terrible student. We talked about dyslexia. Always terrible in school, bad at math, couldn't get in assignments, dropped out of high school after sophomore year, just never went back.
You almost beat the shit out of a teacher too.
Yeah, he started it though. That wasn't my fault. He put hands on me first. But then your parents start to have these conversations with you where they're like, look, you're not doing good. Like you're going to end up in real trouble. You're not just going to get suspended. You're going to go to jail. And so it became this thing where, I had parents that understood they had a kid with outside the box interests, with outside the box talents, that loved nature, that loved animals, that loved art, that loved literature. My mom was so outside the box. She had me as a little kid. I remember we had various trees in our backyard and she would blindfold me and spin me around and walk me to a tree and I'd have to touch the bark of the tree. And she'd be like, now which tree do you think you're touching right now? And it was like a quiz, but it was like, those are really cool ways to engage a kid. And so those are, my earliest memories was collecting acorns and, maple leaves and all these things and dealing with salamanders and frogs and snakes and everything has always been animals for me. And so a few weeks ago, walking through the Amazon, and now we have JungleKeepers. We'll backtrack, but now we have JungleKeepers and we have 50,000 acres, but in the jungle, we don't shower. We go to the river. So we went to the river, swam in the river. Me and my girlfriend, we were walking back, and she goes, "What's that?" And we look on the ground, and there's this little toucan. And it looks like a vulture because this little toucan had, it's got the beautiful toucan beak, but then it had like a naked pink head, and it had all these huge holes in it. It had botflies.
Oh.
Yeah. So we pick up this toucan, we catch it. I like took off my shirt and threw it over this thing and caught it. First of all, thank God birds are small because they're savage. The thing was biting the hell out of my hands. It was freaking out.
They're like little dinosaurs.
It's like a little tiny Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah.
And thank God it's not big. But we took this bird up to the station, put on some gloves, and sat there and pulled all these dried botflies out of it. We cleaned it up. We gave it a bath, gave it some food. We started feeding it papaya, started mashing up some pineapple. Then we started figuring out that it needed protein. Toucans need protein. So we started mashing up like these giant crickets, like this big, mash them up in a cup with some banana, and then put that on a spoon and then give it to it. And this toucan was popping them back. And then we figured out that it loves butterflies. And so that was like maybe a month and a half ago. And now this little toucan went from literally death's door, like almost dead. And then we let it sleep at the station. We put a branch for it, like right in the main thing. And now she's got all these she's got white feathers on the neck, and everything's healing and it's getting better. Did flying lessons. I had this toucan on my finger.
You did flying lessons?
Well, it wasn't flying. So I was like, this toucan needs to learn how to fly. So I would get him or her, I don't know. I'd get him on my finger and then start running. And as I started running, the toucan started flapping its wings. And so I have somewhere on my phone, I have these videos where I'd be like, all right, we're doing flying lessons today. And I'd just be running around in circles in the jungle with this toucan, and she'd start flapping her wings like this. And eventually, and then I did the other thing where I took her and I went, okay, where I was like 3, 2, 1, throw them in the air. And then flap, flap, flap down, like glide to the ground. And every day we would do that. Now,
you're literally teaching a bird how to use its own ecological. Wow.
Obviously, I'm here doing this now, but I talked to my team on the ground yesterday, and they said that right now the bird is up out in the jungle, wild, and comes back when it just like wants a snack.
Oh, so it comes back around though. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And you didn't know if it was a he or she? How do you not know that?
Okay, so some birds have sexual dimorphism where you can tell there's a either physical or an ornamental difference in the structure of the bird. So you might have like
right?
Yeah, but it's inside. Just like a snake, you have to like probe them to know, or a crocodile. So if you take like I think like a cardinal or something, you have like, like a red male cardinal, and then the females are a different color. If you take a bird, I believe that white-throated toucans are just white-throated toucans. I don't think there's any noticeable external, or macaws. Macaws don't have any external signs. If you have a red and green macaw or a scarlet macaw, male and female are indistinguishable from each other. So we don't know.
How do they know?
Oh, they know.
Obviously they do, but how do they?
I don't know whether it's smell or maybe they have a keener eye for like structural differences in the beak or something like that. Or perhaps it's behavioral. But then you have species like peacocks, where you have peacocks that have this massive tail with all the colors, and then you have peahens that are like drab colored gray, and they look nothing like, if you look up a female peacock.
Can we look up female
peahen,
peacock?
They look nothing like a peacock. You wouldn't even guess it was the same bird.
I've definitely never done that before. Female peacock. That's it?
Yep. There it is. Male and female right next to each other. That white one. Yep. There it is. See? God. Totally different. So you have the male with like the royal blue and the giant tail.
They really got chipped over by nature.
Yeah. And the males, I've watched a male peacock present for a female. And so he's got his tail up and he's shaking it and everything else. And female's like walking around pretending not to be interested. And then like 2 more males come and she's like, I'll check these guys out too. And she's like, everybody gets to try. And then she makes her decision. But they're
Oh, they let her make a decision.
That with the birds, yeah, the males have to put on a whole display. And if you see like the birds of paradise, the reason that they have that incredible plumage is because everything is, if it's not perfect, if their dance isn't on point, the females will not select them. And so what happens is the species selects for a certain trait, a perfect set of plumage, a perfect dance. I think there's one bird, I think it might be the bowerbird, I don't want to get it wrong. There's one species of bird that collects blue items, like bright blue items, and then it makes like a nest for the female, only out of blue things. So it'll steal like blue forks and pieces of foil and whatever it can get, but they love blue. And so it has to get her blue stuff. So it goes and robs everybody's blue.
I always wonder about that with animals. We were talking on the last podcast about some of the intellectual capabilities of animals and stuff, but when it comes to feeling and emotion related to imagery, like colors, obviously some of them clearly have that.
I mean, I have no. You'll never hear me say anything about lessening the amount of emotions that animals have. I think that humans struggle with recognizing the amount of emotions that other humans have. So I think when you have a bird, I think it's so outside of our. Like I constantly have people telling me where they're like, "Wow, did you know that animals feel?" And it's like, well, anybody that owns a dog knows that animals feel emotion. You ever like, if it has something and you got to put that collar on, and like you see them looking embarrassed and looking sad and looking, or if they do something wrong.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they know.
Oh,
they know. You know that look where they're just like, "Oh, I shouldn't have taken your sandwich off the counter." It's like, yeah.
I watch all those videos on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
When they're like showing the dog right after, and they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
You ever see the one where the dog's just taking a piss on the floor?
No.
He's just like straight up spread and just starts like just pissing in a puddle, and she's like, "Rocky, what are you?" And so just golden retriever is like, Every time I see that.
I do think though that I know that dogs have more of a connection to human facial expressions than in any other animal.
Is that just because they're domesticated?
Yeah. It's because we've bred for that. They or we have figured that out. Like the fact that you can like look at your dog and just cock an eyebrow, and they're like, "We're going outside," and it's like, yeah, you know.
But that's where I always get confused because I don't know shit about with this, but that's evolutionary because I would assume because we've bred them for whatever it is, thousands of years now. And so at some point that changes the DNA so that they're able to recognize human expression literally in their DNA simply because earlier in the tree, in the family tree, a dog, their forefathers lived with dogs and learned how to do this stuff. So now it's automatic. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's weird.
The question with dogs is, did we domesticate them or did they domesticate themselves? And so was it that human villages were here and the wolves would come and the wolves that were friendlier didn't get killed? Or was it that humans took them in and bred for a trait and bred them down? Like we took the grass that was the ancestor of corn that had like 2 kernels on it, and we bred it into corn that has lots of kernels on it. So we engineered that. Did we take wolves and turn them into dogs? And what was the motivation for doing that? It's like, well, you see it again, back to the Amazon. You see, it's like living 1,000 years ago. The people aren't treating their dogs the way we treat our dogs. It's not like a family member that they love. It's an alarm system. They keep dogs because the dogs are territorial. The dogs understand humans. The dogs stay out of the way. But if somebody else comes to that camp, the dogs start barking. It's a really good alarm system. Yes. So nobody goes anywhere without dogs. Not in the wild, not in the Amazon. You bring your dogs. All the gold miners have dogs, and you get anywhere near them and the dogs go off. And so it's like right there, they're providing us a service, which is the same reason that capuchin monkeys and squirrel monkeys will like share territory. They'll even like hold each other's babies because
Can we pull them up, capuchins? What's
the
other one?
Capuchins and squirrel monkeys. They'll actually like share. They'll like make mixed groups and they'll share responsibilities. And it's just more eyes in the sky. They'll all be looking out for harpy eagles. They'll all be looking out for food.
Now, can they they're different breeds of monkey. Can they communicate like verbally? Do they understand each other?
I think they understand each other just fine because they indicate which directions they want to go. They share the same food sources.
So it's like an Irishman with an American?
Got to think about that. Yeah, right? Like maybe we can't speak the exact same language or we have a different dialect, but yeah.
Got it. Okay. Wow. Wait, this is all them together.
Yeah, and so see that too? He's using tools.
Whoa. How high up are they right now?
I don't think they're very high. That looks like they're at some sort of rehabilitation center.
Yeah.
Somebody's hung that thing, and they're just having fun. But in the wild, you see them sharing habitat. They'll be in the same tree. They'll be all hanging out together. I was just hanging out with squirrel monkeys and
Oh, they really do look like squirrels. Wow.
Yeah.
You were hanging out with squirrel monkeys?
Yeah, sitting in the forest with squirrel monkeys.
Do they just like come up on your shoulder?
No, not like that. Wild animals, I can't think of a wild animal that'll like come on to you like that. No, they're comfortable in being near us. But if I ever like, a lot of it has to do with posture. You have to know how to approach a wild animal. So like if you look directly at them, they're gone. If I'm writing in my notebook and I'm not moving my head, the intention of pose is this direction. The monkey's over here. I can look at them and observe them peripherally, but I can't turn my head towards them. And the same thing goes for if you're tracking a coyote or something. Yeah, the hands, the where your shoulders are. And
it's like you can't wave at these things.
No, then you're gone. Then they think you're attacking them.
Yeah.
And elephants are very similar, very, very big on pose. You know, if an elephant has ears out and is looking at you, posted up, ears out, that elephant is investigating you. That elephant is like, wait, what is this? You know.
Yeah.
Elephant, ears back, relaxed, trunk is busy doing other things if it's foraging. And then elephants will do this thing where we'll be close to elephants, and elephants sometimes will be like a little bit annoyed that the people are close, but they want to keep watching us, but they don't want us to know that they're watching us, so they'll start fake eating. So they'll start breaking stuff off and just throwing it to the side, and they're like side-eyeing you. And it's like, I can see what you're doing. It's really funny.
Oh, man.
Then my other favorite one is that baby elephants, a lot of times, if they're like, I'm kind of scared of these people, I'm going to go hide. And they'll stick their head in a bush and their entire ass and body is, it's like a baby putting a blanket over its head and thinking it's invisible. Yeah. It's just like, I can see
What's the meme of like the person standing behind the tree, but the tree's like this thin and you can see him
exactly
and they're like, you can't see me.
Exactly that.
That's funny. For such a smart animal, you would think better for that. But
it's usually the babies.
Yeah, maybe they're also like, especially at that age, they're not aware of their size.
No, they're not. They're not aware of their size.
They have no
at that age. They're still learning to use their trunk. Baby elephants don't know how to use their trunk. You see them like flipping it around, trying like knocking shit over. Like they have to take time.
How long does that take to learn how to use that from birth?
It's a few months.
Well, that's kind of fast. I thought you were going to say a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean they're with their mother for years. But you would, a deer gets born and stands up. A giraffe gets born and stands up. An elephant gets born, stands up. But then when they're still drinking milk from their mothers, they're just using their mouth. When they get to the point that they're actually dexterous with their trunk and can pick a berry off of a tree and give it to themselves. Or I've seen in India people that have elephants on the roadside where it's India. So you go up and you put your hands in, prayer hands, and you bow your head, and the elephant touches you on the back of the head. You've been blessed. And then you take a coin and present it to the elephant, and the elephant has a fingers on its trunk, and it grabs the coin, takes the coin like this, opens its trunk, and the coin falls into the base of the trunk here. And then as it moves to the next person, you hear this jingling like pirate treasure.
What is it going to do with it?
It's got 700 coins in its trunk because it's got an owner. He's taught the elephant to do this. So the next person comes, next person comes, you bend down, prayer hands, elephant touches you, blesses you. Oh, wait, do the kid too. You hold the kid, the elephant blesses the kid. Lord Ganesha, thank you. And then you give it a coin, it plucks the coin, drops it into the trunk, and then in the curve of the trunk are all these coins. And then you just watch, and sooner or later that trunk goes back and the guy opens his hat and just a river of coins comes out. The elephant just took like 400 rupees from people.
Can you imagine if like Italians in New York had access to elephants? Hey, Vinny, go get the fucking coins, huh?
It's like a fucking vending machine, all right?
That's amazing, man. Hey, guys, if you have a second, please be sure to share around this episode on social media and with your friends, whether it's Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, doesn't matter. It is all a huge, huge help. It allows us to get new eyeballs on this show, spread it around the internet, and it helps us survive. So to all of you who have already been doing that, thank you. To all of you who are going to do so now, thank you. I don't care if it's a clip. I don't care if it's an episode. I don't care what it is. If you're sharing content from the show, you are the real MVP out there, and I appreciate all of you. But they also, the strength that they have in that, what can they, because we were watching the video earlier of the elephant flipping over the cars with his ivory. Yeah. But what's the strength of the tusk?
It's incredible. I can tell you that I've seen an elephant grab, a tree and just uproot it. I've seen an elephant break branches, which, they just grab it and they just rip it off. And their trunk, an elephant's trunk is actually, bigger than me or you. It's huge. The one time I got a sense of it, though, is this elephant was reaching up for something. And it was a, semi-wild elephant, so I was able to get close to it. You cannot get close to a wild elephant. It was a semi-wild elephant that had a handler, but we were out in the forest, and this elephant reached up to grab something on a tree, and I was like, wow, these are really big tusks. And I felt the tusk, and then the underside of the trunk is just like, it looks like an octopus's arm. Like it's just, the way it folds up and there's all that muscle. And so I put my hand over the tusk to touch the trunk. But when that trunk came down, it like levered my arm, and I had to jump off the ground so that my arm didn't snap. Because it would have just like arm barred my arm. And the elephant had no idea. The elephant would have broken my arm in half, and just, it's like he was just doing this. He just was moving. And I just happened to be stupid. And I was just like, wow, and put up my hand, and then whoosh. And the next thing I knew, I like flipped up over and then landed on the ground and couldn't use my elbow for like 2 weeks. Yeah. It's really good though, because if it did break, it would have broken the bad way.
Reassuring.
Yeah. And the elephant would have been like, whatever.
What does an elephant's skin feel like?
Elephant skin on the Asian ones is a lot more hair than you'd think.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
It's the baby Asian elephants actually have like a head of hair. They look like a little woolly mammoth. They're adorable. They're like, they're small. They're small.
Can we pull them up?
Yeah. Type in baby Asian elephant. They're super cute. They're super cute. They have like hair. It's like you see that they're actually genetically much closer to mammoths than.
Oh shit! Yeah, wow.
Yeah, like he's actually got hair.
Can we
so
pull
that's
up a
like
video of
bristly. See, even on the back, there's plenty of hair on there.
All over, and they really don't have much of that at all in Africa.
No,
they got like nothing. All right, here we go. Here's a little video of baby Asian elephant Bella. They're also different shape. Like
they're very different. They're very, very different.
They're distinctly different, but they're both elephants right away.
Look at this.
Oh, look at that thing.
But see,
how big is that?
It's probably about, this back is probably about where your table is. They're small. That's small.
Yeah, that's real small. It's like having a fucking Dalmatian already.
That weighs 700 pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
They're dense, man. Just their teeth. I found an elephant skull, and they have like 1 to 2 teeth on each part of their jaw, and so like their tooth, it's like 35 pounds, and it's got these giant roots coming off of it, but it's this giant piece of ridged sculpture. It's amazing. An elephant tooth is a wild thing. Oh, they're so cute.
Yeah, when you were saying, so I can't remember if that was on camera or off camera. I think it was on camera. You're talking about the elephant's mouth or whatever. That was something, like when you said that, I'm like, I don't know that I've ever even really looked at that.
The inside of an elephant's mouth?
Yeah, I don't think,
it's weird.
Because it's blocked,
Yeah, it's blocked by the trunk. A lot of elephants, when you feed them, they want you to put, like, I had a pineapple, and this elephant he just didn't want to take it with his trunk. And so he just kept opening his mouth. And I you're like, it's kind of scary. You go to put it in his mouth, and he rushes you with this mouth that's, this giant mouth. And you got to drop the pineapple in and get your hand out of there quick. You're like,
you're gone.
That's the end of it.
That's nuts, man.
Yeah.
But when we wanted to talk about on the last episode, but just never got to it, about how you developed your initial relationships with JJ and Emma coming into the jungle when you were 18 years old. How did you end up there in the first place with them?
I wanted to find a way of going to the jungle that wasn't, you can go on vacation, you can go whatever, you can go to a lodge or something. And my view of what I was doing, my personal mission was, I wanted to go to a part of the Amazon that was extremely wild. I wanted to go past where, the tourist trail. And I wanted to go, if I could, I was only barely 18 years old, and I wanted to go, if I could, in some capacity that was serving a purpose. And so I went as a research volunteer studying macaws. And what it was JJ owned this piece of land, and with his partner at the time, Emma, and they had started this little research station. And so I went down there and I did my...
JJ is a native of Peru.
So JJ, Juan Julio Duran Torres, he grew up in the Madre de Dios of Peru. He's from the Anaconda tribe. And him and his brothers are this incredible family. And he was like the first person I met in Peru. And when I went out there, he goes, well, what do you want to see in the jungle? You know, I think he was like 32 at the time. And, you know, I was just this teenager, and he was like, so what do you want to see when you go out in the jungle? And I was like, snakes. And he was like, snakes. He was like, we don't like snakes here.
Fuck snakes. Oh, so he's on the team. Love that.
He's a convert. So then we're going upriver on like day one, and he like stops the boat driver, and he's like, look over there. And this like 12-foot black and green snake on the side of the river about to take a drink. And he goes, you like snakes? I went, yeah. He goes, well, let's go get it. He goes, come on, snake boy. And so he pops his shirt off, and I pop my shirt off, and he gets into the river, and I'm straight off. I'm left from JFK, and now I'm in the Amazon, and I'm going, you can get in that water? Like, I thought piranhas are going to eat you. He's like,
don't they have like penis eating fish in there too?
He was like, don't be a pussy. He was like, let's go. He was like, come on. And so we got in the water, and my feet, I'll never forget it, my feet touched the bottom of the river, and I went, whoa, the river's not deep. He goes, no, the rivers here aren't deep.
What does it feel like down there?
It's sand. It's perfect sand. I thought it'd be seaweedy and rocky and nasty. No, perfect sand.
Muck, guck, all that?
No guck. We got on the sand. We started walking. We went the snake. They're fast. They went straight into the jungle. We didn't get to catch it. But then over the next few weeks, I would do research on macaws in the daytime, which was just hours and hours of taking data on how cloudy it was, how many macaws there were, what they were doing, what their activity was, if they flushed. And then in the evenings, I would turn on my headlamp, and I'd be like, all right, JJ, let's go find snakes. And he'd be like, cool, let's go do it. And he loved it because he had grown up in this indigenous community where he knew, you know, his father and the guy Don Ignacio, who was the shaman. And so he literally had the walk to school that so many people's parents has become like a cliche. He had to walk for an hour through the jungle to get to school barefoot. And so there was a whole bunch of siblings. I think he has 17 brothers.
That's nice.
And so they would have to walk, you know, all at varying ages. And so they would have to walk through the jungle to get to the community, because within the indigenous community, there was like a center where there was, you know, the school, but then their land was out here. So they would have to walk to get to school, go to school, and then come back. And then, but the things that they grew up doing was, you know, who in the family, Uncle so-and-so is a logger. Uncle so-and-so is a, you know, a fisherman. And so everybody had a different area of the jungle that was their specialty. And so like whether it was hunting, fishing, logging, they always were learning from the forest. And so if you go out with JJ in the jungle, he knows the jungle in a way that like no matter what you or I do, no matter how many years we spend studying, he's known it since he was born.
Breathing.
He breathes it.
Yeah.
And so we'll walk past a tree and he'll be like, stop. Cut the tree. He'll be like, I don't know what this tree is. And I'm like, do you know what that tree is? And he's like, yeah, Raymond Cosby, idiot. And I'm like, all right, do you know what that tree is? And he's like, yeah, Kauba. And I'm like, do you know what that tree is? And he's like, yeah, Palo Santo. He's like, blah, 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 blah. Every single tree, he knows the trees. So when he finds one that he doesn't know, whereas for us, there's 1,500 species of hardwood trees in the Amazon, it's just green. And there's just big trees, small trees, broken trees.
I see trees.
I see trees.
Yeah.
Look, birds.
Right.
So he worked as a birding guide and as a scientist, and he had the indigenous knowledge.
And as a scientist.
Yeah, I mean, he's collaborated on so many scientific projects since before I was on the scene and after. And so what you get is you get a scientist coming down, and they go, well, he had a filmmaker come down, and they went, I want to get a video of a sloth drinking. Well, sloths live in the trees, so how do you get a video of a sloth? He got the guy a video of a sloth drinking.
Where did it go down with everyone else? Right.
It went down to the river and it drank. But how to find a sloth? Sloths look exactly like a termite nest. Sloths blend into the lichen of a tree. To find a sloth is almost impossible. He found a sloth and then somehow delivered on that sloth moving, which again, I've been standing right next to a sloth and can't tell if it's a sloth. I've had to poke it and then it wakes up and it tries to kill you.
You know how like a blind person can have unbelievable other senses, right? They develop it, especially if they went blind at a very, very young age or were born blind. And so they can hear things and feel things and sense things with the other senses that we can't. Do you think it's a similar or maybe the same like type of biological scientific effect growing up in that environment?
Yeah, except I think it's multiplied by 1,000. Like I tell people, like when you're driving on a highway and you you just get this sense. You go, that person's going to come flying over for no reason. You just know this person's going to fly into your lane with no signal. And if you drive a lot, you just sort of make decisions based on something, some other part of yourself that you just accumulated experience. He walks through the forest and he's on such a different plane. He's on such a different level. We're over there like, hey, look, this is a cool leaf. And then he'll be like, give me that. And he'll be like, check it out. And he'll be like, if you rub this really quickly, it turns your hands red. The reason it does that is and he'll go into this whole thing about, this medicinal plant that the uncontacted people smear on their bodies to keep mosquitoes away. But it can also be used to treat these number of illnesses. And you're like, holy shit. And I'm like, what plant does that go to? And he goes, oh, it only grows on the top of the trees. It only grows in the canopy. It's very rare. And I'm like, but you know it. He's like, oh, yeah.
Of course I do.
Yeah. How do you think I survived being 4 years old? And it's like, oh, all right. So yeah, he's just on another level. And so that has opened up the Amazon to me. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to write Mother of God if I didn't have that type. If I had gone to some research station that was run by a PhD from some European country and, a bunch of foreigners walking around with clipboards and stuff. It's, you wear rubber gum boots and you have rules. And going into the Amazon with JJ was like, he was like, take your shoes off, take your shirt off. Yeah. Like, first rule of Fight Club is shut the fuck up. Let's go. It was just like, he was just like, teach me how to, he was like, I will teach you the jungle. You teach me snakes.
So he didn't know a hell of a lot about snakes.
No, because they all kill snakes. They say,
my kind of people.
You fucking when you come to the jungle, I'm telling you.
There was a snake at my parents' house. There was a snake outside the garage door. One day, laying there, was like a 6-foot snake, and I couldn't leave the house. I was like taking pictures from above with Paul. I'm like, Paul, what do I do? Do I get the gun? The driver? He's like, it's a garden snake. It's friendly. I'm like, that's not friendly.
It was a beautiful black rat snake.
It was
They're
not beautiful.
Sweethearts. They are
fucking
sweethearts.
Gross. I was trying to get the dog to go eat it, but
on.
She wouldn't touch it.
Your golden retriever.
Yeah, she's kind of a pussy, but sweet dog. But he didn't fuck with snakes at all.
Yeah.
How old was he when you met him? 30?
32-ish, yeah.
So in his 32 years, he had really been like, we only kill snakes. And now, how'd you convert him?
Something happens, and I can't wait to gift your listeners with this amazing piece of content when you eventually come to the Amazon. Something happens when people don't like snakes. What's happening is that they don't understand snakes. And so what I do is I ask the person to sit, and I've done this with hundreds of people. You put your hands out. And I've had everything on the spectrum from people who, if they even see a snake, they will start crying. People that if I show them a picture of a snake on my phone, they're like, they physically react. They hate them. Take that same person and you handle a snake in front of them. You let them see it. And you're like, oh, wow, look at that little tiny shoestring of an animal that can't defend itself against even a blue jay. And you're like, oh, he's harmless. And you're like, yeah, this is a little grass snake. Like, it's okay. Da, da, da. You could kill it with your thumb. And then I say, well, when you're ready, sit down next to me. Very slow, very slow. And they see the snake. And then the snake will move quickly and I'll go, see, the snake got scared because of you. You're the big animal. Okay. And I go, put your hands out. I'm just going to touch you with the snake, just a breath. And they go, oh shit, it's not slimy. No, it's not slimy. It's like all marble scales. So it's dry. Whoa. And then they like finger on the tail. And then pretty soon that same person is like holding a boa constrictor 3 days later. And they're like, I love snakes. It's literally because they've never met one. And I've met
a few. Doesn't end well for them.
Yeah,
but
they're
yeah. Sorry. It's
all
the
right,
one kind of animal.
Fuck this. Fuck this, all right?
Don't let the New York come out. But it's the one kind of animal that I'm always like, someone murks a snake. I'm like, okay.
No. We're going to bring you around.
And rats,
We're going to bring
too.
you around. This is going to be a beautiful story.
Yeah.
All right, rats.
I like that snakes eat rats. I do like that.
They specialize in it.
That's a win.
Yeah.
That's a win. We could use a few snakes down by the river right there.
Yep. So JJ knew, it seemed like, everything about the jungle, medicinal plants, how to track animals, where to find everything, a whole lifetime of jungle knowledge. And then, if you're out with loggers, they see a snake, they go, Vibra, kill it. Fucking guys, you cut a little snail eating snake in half. And they're like, it was a venomous one. And I'm like, no, it's not. And they're like, yeah, all the brown and red ones are venomous. And I'm like, you can't identify snakes. Like, you could have a timber rattlesnake that's black or yellow. You can't identify snakes based on color.
Ever.
Not really, no.
How'd you identify mine then? That could have been a poisonous man-eating fucking snake, and you would have been like, oh, it's
That was one of my
harmless.
childhood friends.
Whatever.
Black rat snakes are one of the coolest snakes we have.
Yeah, he didn't look friendly.
He's a sweetheart just trying to get a tan, and you're over here complaining about him. It's going to get heated. It's going to get fucking heated.
Okay, keep going. I'm open. No. I'm open to conversion.
But no, so then so I started catching tree boas and things and started showing him what the difference was with snakes. Like, how do you tell the difference? And until you have a snake in front of you, until you start looking at the scales and the shape of the head and the shape of the body, it's very difficult to explain it. It's very fun. The only way I can give an analogy is like, we know the difference with cars, like a Jeep, a taxi, a sedan, a truck,
yes,
a pickup truck, like a bus. We're all like, that's pretty easy. No matter what color it is, we know the shape of those things. And so for anyone that knows snakes, it's pretty easy to spot an elapid, which is like the coral snakes and the cobras, or a constrictor, like an anaconda or a python. It's like you start to be able to go, okay, I get it. And then, if I'm at 90%, recently we were somewhere and somebody goes, viper. And I said, where? I get this little thing by the tail, super careful. I'm like, let me see the head. No, that's not a viper. It's some sort of cat-eyed snake. And then I'm like, okay, this snake is...
A cat-eyed snake?
Cat-eyed snake. It's just a small species of non-venomous nocturnal snake that eats like frogs and lizards. Completely harmless to us. But most people in the field... I do this all the time. I go, is this snake venomous? And people are like, yep. No. And then a lot of times what happens is people see me handling snakes and they go, I just had this happen. Where people see me handling snakes and then they go, oh, so you can just handle snakes. You pick up the wrong snake and you die.
Right. I'm shocked that hasn't happened to you.
No, I'm actually very, very careful with venomous snakes. Venomous snakes, very careful. I mean, in the Amazon, we have bushmasters, which is...
Can we pull that up? Bushmasters
pull up.
In the Amazon?
Actually,
pull up a video of them?
If you don't mind, put my name after that. See if it... put Bushmaster Paul Rosolie. It might actually just show a picture of me. Go to images. There might just be a picture of me holding a bushmaster.
Is that it?
Second from the right top. Right there.
That's a bushmaster.
That's a fucking bushmaster.
Is that like a full-sized one?
That is a full-sized 11-foot long bushmaster.
Oh, that's nice.
The scientific name of that snake is...
What are you holding it with?
I actually have a snake hook, but you see it bending?
Come on. I'd be shitting myself.
You see how much I'm sweating? Though. You see this? That's sweat. I didn't jump in a river. That's sweat.
But you've already made the mistake of being here. That's the problem. So it's bending around. Like, how fast is this thing? Like, how does it attack? A bite?
Yeah, I mean, that snake in the daytime, bushmasters are incredibly lethargic. They're mostly nocturnal. So as I'm handling that in the daytime, I was actually relocating that snake and just trying to put it down. Now, in this moment, what I did not know about bushmasters is that they actually have a barb on their tail, like a nail. No snake that I know about has this. So as I'm holding the snake, I have the tail. Right hand is safe. Left hand has the snake hook. And I'm like, okay, the head is over there. And I'm like, I'm safe. You know what I mean? You're constantly watching this thing's head because you're like, if this turns around, I die. And all of a sudden, I feel something stab into me and break the skin. And it's using that barb on its tail. And of course, all you're thinking is, don't get pinched, don't get envenomated, don't get bitten up. Immediately, that's where all that sweat came from, because I had this full-scale systemic panic attack because I thought somehow my body thought envenomated. We've been envenomated. And it's
been what?
Envenomated. Like they got you. Like when they bite you, there's two syringe teeth.
Envenomated?
And the act of venom entering your skin.
Use that word. I like that.
Envenomated.
Yes, that's a good one.
Luckily, I was not envenomated because that snake, the Latin name is literally death, Lachesis muta.
How many of them are in the Amazon?
They're everywhere, and they have it's lousy.
I can hear Jim DiOrio right now, like, I'm out. Where this is not happening.
And you can't really tell in this picture, but they have most snakes are smooth. These guys have keeled scales on the back, like a dragon or a crocodile.
What do you mean keeled?
Their back scales on the back, they're popped off the, there's
As in, like you're running against it like the grain, or it's popped off like a half circle type deal.
Think of the scoots on a crocodile's back. They're not spikes, but they're just little bumps.
Yeah, bravo.
So if you run your fingers over that, it's a very interesting texture. It's not like a normal. It's like a king of snakes. It really is like king cobra is the largest venomous snake on earth. This is the neotropical version of that. Oh, that's so cute. Look at that. That's early in my days when I would like watermark photos.
Oh, with your name.
Yeah. Like, this is my photo, guys.
Please, all rights and
all rights
copyright
reserved
to
for
me.
Paul Rosolie.
That's hilarious.
To Mandua.
How old are you in there? 22, 23?
Let's see. That's 2011. That's 2011.
22.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Sure.
Wow. So that one's one of the most dangerous ones.
That's one.
But isn't an anaconda the most dangerous one?
No,
They can
anaconda.
fucking
I mean,
swallow you
if they're really that big to the point that the head is this big, when the head is bigger than a Rottweiler and you have 200 teeth and 6 rows, then yes, that's very dangerous. But
And how wide open can they open that mouth?
180. But again, what kind of asshole sees an anaconda in a swamp and goes anywhere near it? There's no situation where
You.
there's no situation. Let's just say there was a king cobra in this room right now, right over there by that globe, my blood pressure wouldn't change.
With a king cobra.
No,
Going
no, it wouldn't be doing that. A king cobra right now would probably flare its hood up and then go right behind that curtain and chill out and go to sleep. They just want to find a dark spot and go to sleep. Now, if I opened that curtain and started poking it with a broomstick, then the fucker would stand up and be like, look, if you want me to arrange a meeting with God, oblige him.
Oblige him. That was so upsetting when Lex didn't get that. Didn't get that reference. That was so good.
He's got his feelers in so
Lex,
many directions.
I love you, but what are you doing, man?
No,
That's such a great movie.
He's you can tell when you're talking to him. He's on the next 40 moves of the conversation.
Hey Donnie, got another sauerkraut sandwich. Wants to die for country.
Oblige him.
God damn, that was good. That was a really good podcast you guys did together. By the way, I was very impressed with that.
It was. Well, again, you guys are the captains when we do these things. I feel like you guys, you're just like, what about this? And then I just go. And he did a very good job, I thought, of, we sat down and he went, here's where we're going to start. And however he started it, however it progressed, it was structured in such a way that I didn't do any thinking that entire time.
That's great.
He was just like, look, you wrote this. What? You said this. What? And it just went. And somehow we kind of started from the beginning, kind of like we did today. And it was a very calm conversation. It was a good one. It was very enjoyable.
It's pretty cool that because you had told me this long before you ever got invited on there, that on the Amazon, like sometimes when you listen to a podcast and stuff, like he's a guy you listen to a lot, and then you get to be in a studio. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it was funny because the way he messaged me when he said, he goes, "Do you want to come on this podcast I do?" And I was like,
yes,
the Lex Fridman podcast that I'm a huge fan of. Yes, I would love that. Yeah, no, that was awesome. That was super fun.
Yeah, good for exposure too. Obviously, I mean he's huge now.
Yeah,
and then that gets you. After that, you get on Joe and do that whole thing. That was really, really cool.
Yes, I was very surprised going on Joe that. I wouldn't use the word like intimidated, but I was just like, as I was going in there, I was just like, holy fuck, this is not a joke. I was, I'm thinking about, don't fuck up how many acres are in the Amazon and trying to remember everything. And my takeaway from that was that he was such a nice person to me that I was nicer to people after I met him. Cause I was like, if Rogan has the time to be that nice to me, cause he could have just been like, let's do the podcast. And I'm like, all right, fuck off, kid.
Right.
The dude was so nice. He was like, oh, you got dogs? You got golden retrievers? He's like, I'll bring my dog to the studio. He's just such a dude that literally I found myself at times where I would just, be like a little bit, angry or gruff with someone and just be like, dude, what the fuck you doing?
That's a great example.
He's the biggest guy out there too. And like in media, period.
You would just think that the ego would go hand in hand with that. And then, it's just like if he was sitting here, we'd just be like,
I don't know him, but every person I know who has dealt with him has said the same thing, which is really cool because he's such an amazing example to all of us who do this, do anything, and that this business doesn't happen without him starting it. And to see him at the top of his game, but still being that same guy, that's really, really cool.
I think anybody that is at that level where you're, a household name, receiving that amount of attention to still be gracious and patient and respectful of people at that level. I mean, it's got to be tough. Not just for him, for anybody. If you're a famous author or a sports player and you're out and you're having, a milkshake with your kids and someone, yo man, I'm a big fan, got to get a picture. It's like, that's cool when it first starts happening.
I don't think so.
The 10,000. I mean, no. I mean, look, I went to I was at Dunkin' Donuts the other day and I was picking up an order and I went to the window and I paid. Just as I'm pulling away, this kid sticks his head out and he goes, "Are you Paul Rosolie?" and that doesn't happen to me a lot. I went, "Holy shit!" And like it felt, it was like, "Whoa, shit!" It was like cool. But I could picture how
once it's extrapolated,
times 10,
right.
times 10,000. When you're like, dude, I'm just like in my pajamas and it's 2 a.m. and I'm just trying to get a pizza. Like that's probably not the best thing. And for guys at that level where anytime you go anywhere, you're identified instantly. It's got to be rough. And so to maintain still being a nice person at that level, to me, is actually a huge feat. That's pretty impressive.
He also gets attacked for bullshit all the time. The guy does is talk with people, right? That's why he's so likable, because he sits down with people he's interested in and has a conversation with them, and they do it on camera, which is the basis of what a podcast should be. And yet, it's almost like he got so big that all the people from, I don't know, the mainstream or whatever you want to say, it's like they're jealous of it and they just attack him on every little thing. And I can't imagine how fucking exhausting that must be.
It's got to be exhausting. And I think, who the fuck is getting their news from? I mean, like, who told you? You know what I mean? Like, there are sources to go to if you want to learn about COVID-19 or something like that. Like, why are people? He's literally, and I think what he does is he's very good at having everybody on.
Yeah.
You want to tell me the Earth is flat? Come on, tell me the Earth is flat. I'm gonna laugh at you. Like, it's like come embarrass yourself on my show. And like, I think that's the problem that people have is like, it's like let's talk about it. It's okay.
Yeah.
And if you're an evil psychopath, let's talk about it.
It's gonna come out.
Let us know.
Yes.
Let us know. And that's I think that's a strategy that people forget now is like, I want to know what they're thinking. I want to know what the people are thinking. I don't want them silenced. I want to hear. If someone's a crazy racist, it's like, well, I want to know about it. I don't want to risk being around them. And so I feel like, I mean, in general, it's just, I was recently reading about how that story, and I forget where he was when this happened, but Teddy Roosevelt was supposed to give a speech and someone pops out of the crowd, shoots him in the chest.
Mm.
Now he's got a few hundred people around, just gets shot in the chest. He makes sure he's okay. The crowd jumps on the guy and they start trying to murder this dude. Teddy Roosevelt is the only calm one. He steps in and he goes, stop. He had a 50-page speech in his coat. So the bullet went in and stayed in him the rest of his life. But he's actually the one. He looked at the guy and he goes, why'd you do it? The guy didn't answer him, so he said, give him to the cops. Then he took the speech with the hole in it, held it up to the crowd and went, now, I might not be able to talk as long as I wanted to, but I'm going to give this speech. I just got shot. And he kept going. And it's like, there's a.
That's why they call him the man in the arena.
Yeah. Yeah. And so from that to shield my ears, I can't listen.
Right.
On that spectrum, it's just, if someone's crazy, I want to know about it. Let them talk.
But think about that. Think back in the real world here, where we're going about our lives under our hydraulic lights or whatever the fuck they're called, holding our asshole up to the sun, doing all the Andrew Huberman protocols just to stay healthy. You're out in the environment. You're out in the shit. You're in the middle of stuff. You see what real problems are. You see what real problems are with people trying to attack it and take it away from the earth and what that could do to our ecosystem. You see it from people who have to be out there and this is where they're born and they have to find a way to survive every day. You see your days where you wake up, you're in the middle of the brush and maybe you run into a fucking jaguar and it's fight or flight. And then you come back here and you see that we can't even handle hearing someone talk that we don't like their opinions and we all got to bitch about it on the internet. That's got to be fucking annoying.
Yeah. I mean, I miss a lot, thankfully, because I'm in the jungle off the grid most of the time. But yes, that can be annoying and the chatter is annoying, but it's also, at some point it almost feels offensive to, I don't want to use the word offensive because everybody's offended, but everybody's offended, but, well, me too. Damn it. No, but at some point it's like, I watch my friends in the Amazon living these hard lives, and a lot of the local guys who I'm friends with, they carry the motor up the hill to put the hose in the stream to get water so that they can have their kids have water, or they're drinking out of the stream. And there's these unnegotiable truths of nature that when it rains, the stream floods, you have to move camp. And it's like, life is so simple and everyone agrees on the same truths because it's nature. You can't negotiate with the rocks. You can't negotiate with the rain. We're all living in one reality because it's the river. And that's what the mountains do, the same thing for you. If you're hiking and you're up in the mountains, you notice people help each other. When you encounter another hiker, most of the time they wave, they check in to see if you need anything. It's like there's this culture of like, hey, we're all here.
Mm-hmm.
A thunderstorm could come in right now and zap you off this mountain. So we better be good to each other. And if you need anything, let me know. I'll just be like down on the next thing. It's like when you're out in the wild, it creates this, it centers you. It regrounds you to the unnegotiable truths of
Reality.
The universe, the chemical, physical truths of reality. And so, yes, coming back, but the cities have always been a place of chatter. That's where you have to lose the madness over the mountains.
Yes.
That's always been a dynamic. It's just worse now because the rate of chatter is faster. But again, I think that we're going through a rough patch. I think that more and more people are calming down, remembering that, where things lie, there's serious things happening out in the earth and in the world. People right here at home are dealing with serious things.
Yes.
People are trying to survive. Who gives a fuck? Like,
Yeah.
we need to, you can't chop things up to that level. It just needs to be do good, help people, and shut the fuck up.
I think there are a lot more normal thinking people out there than we realize. I do think, especially with the internet, it rewards the loudest voices for the most attention because it draws the most opinion. And I always have to remind myself that because I forget it. Even when I know this, like I still forget that because it's like, damn, everyone must be thinking this and we must be a disaster here or there. And it's not. I think we're going to be all right. And I think we need things that we can all rally behind, right? That's why I like causes like this, because they're the types of things that if people are even just somewhat educated on it, and, everyone likes a good animal, right? At some point or another.
Everyone loves a cute baby elephant.
Right, exactly. Like there's little things, even if it's just something small that can get people on the same page, then I think that's a W for society. But we're going to go get dinner in a couple hours with Andy Bustamante and Jim DiOrio and these guys who come at it from, the national security side of things or whatever. And one of the things that Andy says very openly and not like callously, but just like as like a matter of fact that blows my mind, but it's obvious when you look at history, is he's constantly talking about like, we need an enemy. We need an enemy to unite against or something like that, which is a horrible thing to have to think. But unfortunately, I think about this all the time. Remember when he said it in episode 107 when he and I were going at it, and like an hour, 40 minutes in, he was like, we need an enemy. And I was like, what did you just say? And I think about
That's what he believes, or he's saying that's human nature?
It's human nature.
Yeah.
Right. It's not what he wants to believe. But he's like, there's something about that if we don't find it outside, we find it within. And when we find it within, it's always over bullshit, right? It's not like, 150 years ago where people were literally fighting over like slavery, like something horrible, right? It's usually stupid shit where people, if they really thought about it, they'd be on the same page.
Yes.
So if we could give them more things to focus on where they're going to be on the same page, we can get somewhere.
And that's important because that's what drives me crazy with the environment, because it's like, and that's where, being out in the jungle, seeing the burning forest, seeing wildlife die, seeing local people, indigenous groups being pushed off their land by invasions and gold mining and heavy machinery and all this stuff. And then you come back and people try to even politicize whether or not you think we should protect natural systems.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, environmentalists on this side. It's like, whoa, I'm sorry.
That's nuts.
Do you breathe? And do you drink water? Then we're all on the same side.
Yeah.
We are all on the same side on that one. I don't want to hear that. To me, that should be the great unifier. And the fact that, if we're going to lose black rhinos, there may be some variance in with somehow hunters always want to fix. It's like cowboys. They think they can fix every problem by shooting it. Mm-hmm. Here they come. But, then you have the other side, which is the bunny huggers that want no animals to die.
Yep.
The cows and the chickens, and
PETAs.
we need to go vegan. And so it's even there, you have a spectrum. But for me, even then, I've laser focused wild animals, wild species that have existed on Earth for millions of years, long before we got here. They need to be protected. They are the thing that is endangered right now that could irreversibly be deleted from existence.
Yes.
And that terrifies me. And we can talk about how cool bushmasters are and how cool elephants are, but if I've seen anything out in the wild, it's that what people forget, when you're a kid, you read a book about a forest and these animals live in the forest. What they don't necessarily hit on is that those animals are making the forest.
Mm.
The bats are carrying ironwood seeds. The orchid bees are pollinating Brazil nuts. All the animals, the leafcutter ants are taking all of that plant life, all of those leaves and flowers, and pulling it underground and farming it. Fungus is digesting the leaves of the forest. Otherwise, the Amazon would cover itself in leaves and extinguish itself. So all the animals are creating the forest. The forest is creating the weather is creating our environment. It's all connected. At some point, it needs to become basic human knowledge that we need the fish in the rivers.
Yes.
It comes standard with life on Earth. It's beautiful. You get sunshine, clean water, fish, all this amazing stuff. It's ours to fuck up. It's ours to ruin.
Guys, if you're still watching this video and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please take 2 seconds and go hit it right now. Thank you.
And right now we've gone too far on the side of we're destroying our oceans, we're destroying our forests, we're losing our tropical rainforests. The great thing right now, and the thing that is not going to repeat itself in history, is that we can still push most of it back. We've lost the thylacine, we've lost the dodo, we've lost the Caspian tiger, we've lost some species along the way, but we still have polar bears, we still have humpback whales, we still have tigers. Tigers are coming back. They went from 100,000 down to 3,000, and now we're back up. I think we're approaching 6,000 tigers globally.
Can we look that up, Chris?
I'm going to say 100,000 tigers in 1900, and then I want to say around 1990, probably around 3,000 tigers. And then,
God damn it, Texas.
And then now,
that's where they all went.
Fucking Texas.
Fucking Texas. How many tigers are left? Good. Oh, yeah, that second one right there. World tiger puppy. No. Well, actually, that works, right?
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Yeah, but when is this from, though?
So that's only from 1970, and it was already down to 40,000 then, and 2010 we have it down at 3. Yeah, it looks like about 3. And now you said it's coming back a little bit.
Yeah, it's bounced back a little bit.
What's that chart to the? Oh, you just went off it. Go back to the first one we had, Chris. Yep. You have the mouse to your right, by the way. And then see the chart on the tab that we just clicked. Go all the way to the right. See the one that has the blue and the green? What does that say? Okay, so that's looking at how it could.
How it could. That's a projection, though.
Okay, so that's just a projection.
Yeah.
What was the real reason behind a lot of that?
Tigers?
Yeah,
that was
poaching?
straight up. No, it was a few prongs. It was I would say 3 prongs if I'm thinking quickly. It was, first of all, extermination. In a lot of regions, they would just exterminate tigers because you have a big, terrifying striped animal living near your village, and sooner or later, tigers don't really look at humans as prey, but sooner or later you're going to get that old tiger that doesn't really have teeth that work anymore. Maybe they fell out and it can't hunt the deer. It's going to try a human. And then
that's all it takes.
You get a man-eating tiger. And then, so you get humans eradicating. We've eradicated predators. There's still bounties on coyote hunting in this country. Governments encourage you to murder predators. And as we know now, predators are what hold the entire ecosystem together. Predators manage the ecosystem. The lions and the jackals and the leopards all manage the prey species, all the deer and the gazelles and everything else. And so like wolves in Yellowstone is the classic example of that. That when they reintroduced wolves to Yellowstone, all of a sudden they saw the entire ecosystem shift and then fall into place. Where because the wolves kept the prey animals moving quicker, it made them graze in a way where they didn't eat everything down to the earth. They would graze a little bit and move on, graze a little bit and move on. They were more active. They were looking for wolves. And so it changed the behavior, which changed the botanical ecology, which then allowed beavers to move in, which then the beavers changed the way the water worked. And then you saw fish populations bouncing back, and you saw the eagles acting differently. And it's like everything domino effect.
It also matters where they are, though, too, right? So if you have coyotes running around like L.A., you can't have that.
No, they're going to eat people's dogs.
Right.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Sure.
So when you're talking about governments are encouraging people to kill some, do you think they need a better? Yeah. Do you think they need to better define where? Meaning, like maybe the governor of Montana shouldn't be encouraging his people to kill coyotes because it's wide open there.
I think that I'll stick with tigers because I'm actually like the politics around the predator stuff in this country is savage. But in India, they saw, a sharp decline in tiger numbers over the last century. There was even someone that had attached machine guns to a Rolls Royce. As a tiger hunting, type in tiger hunting Rolls Royce.
Tiger hunting Rolls Royce.
He had attached guns to a Rolls Royce so he could go tiger hunting. And of course, the British would go there and blow away some tigers. See, there it is. Look at the top right. Top right. There's a black and white picture.
Oh my God.
Just let that preview go away. There you go. Right there. Look at that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So tigers were exterminated. Tigers. I don't know.
Is that this end? Where's that coming from? On mine? Sorry. Let's turn it off. It comes in the computer sometimes when someone FaceTimes.
On like iMessage.
I forgot to turn the volume off the computer.
So the three things. They faced extermination, they faced habitat destruction, and then the killer for them was at their prey base because the humans would kill all the deer, and a tiger needs like a deer a week to live. And so in South India, which is where, India is the country that has the most tigers of any country right now. And they've done an incredible job of managing a massive human population with also somehow still managing to have an incredible network of protected areas. And so what they realized was keep the deer, make it so that nobody is hunting deer in these tiger reserves. If there is enough deer, the tigers will survive. And then protect the area and then connect the areas that are protected. Create corridor systems. And so that's why they're having such huge success because they're actually they have that national pride and that we have tigers. It's part of their national identity. It's actually one of the most interesting conservation stories because to me, like a tiger is one of the most, like if you're going to show aliens, what are some species on planet Earth? You'd be like tiger, whale, elephant.
Start with elephant and whale.
Right?
Probably.
Yeah. But it's like, this is the most impressive land predator we have. It's gigantic. It's orange. It's got black stripes. I mean, they literally have teeth on their tongue. It's such an incredible killing machine.
Can we get a picture of that?
Tiger teeth tongue?
Yeah. Tiger teeth tongue's good.
Just like like when a cat licks your finger and you feel that little rough texture. When a tiger licks your finger, the skin comes off.
Chris, you're doing a great job filling in today. This was a tough one to get.
Yeah, there's a lot of visuals with this stuff.
Big shout out to Chris because Alessi's out in Colorado. Yeah. Holy shit!
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't know it was that. Mm-hmm. Oh, it even hurts on the way down.
No, I mean they are so perfectly made for killing. Their teeth, their claws, their tongue. If women
had tongues like that, they'd run the world.
You've seen the inside of a leatherback sea turtle's mouth?
Paul, do I look like a guy who's seen the inside of a leatherback sea turtle's mouth?
All right, one more, Chris.
All right, let's
one more for now. You got a
Turtle.
Leatherback sea turtle mouth. This is gonna fuel your nightmares for a while.
Where can I find a leather? Oh my God!
Yeah, click that one.
Isn't there a shark that has a mouth like that?
Not like that. Not like that. It's like a conveyor belt of backwards facing teeth. Oh my God.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the stuff of medieval torture right there.
Yep.
What did the fish that you guys talk about, the what's it called, the penis-eating fish
The
in the
candiru.
Amazon.
Yeah,
What are they called?
Candiru.
Their mouth don't look like that, does it?
Nothing looks like that. That's. Thank God it's
Not
a
that
sea
that
turtle.
makes me feel
Thank
better,
God it's a
but-
sea turtle.
What is this thing? Can we actually see what this animal looks like, though? This turtle?
Leatherback. It's the largest sea turtle.
You would never think that that's what they're...
Leatherbacks are incredible. That's an amazing animal.
This is the one that has a mouth like that?
Yeah, so this big, giant, gentle giant.
God, they look so gentle.
Yeah, they are gentle. Just if you stick your hand in their mouth.
You're never going to see it again.
No.
Can they even taste? There's no taste with that. They just have teeth.
I have to admit, I know nothing about what a turtle can and cannot taste.
How would we know?
I'm sure there's somebody that knows. Hold up. It's, I mean, we know they have good smell, right? Let's start with that. I've seen turtles, yellow-footed tortoises in the Amazon. I see them. They love rotting food. Like they know that rotting food is more appealing than. So they're very smell-based, actually. Like they're very
Why is rotting
motivated.
food more appealing?
Well, it smells more. It's probably also softer, probably
sea
sweeter.
turtles, most of which are now protected species, actually fall on the beefy side, often being compared to veal in both
Wait, no, this is talking about
Now we're talking about illegal eating.
illegal eating,
Oh man,
offsides, and illegal eating.
yeah, 15-yard penalty. What is JJ and the guys down there who like? Well, first of all, does JJ ever come back to America with you that much?
No, I want him to.
Never.
And when he does,
Oh, absolutely.
Right,
I've been
right.
asking. I want to do.
you
a
know what?
podcast
Actually,
with you
the
guys.
internet has been asking that. When I do like
I wanted to do it the first time.
So what I do is after the first podcast that we did last year, I had so much fun reading that when people don't believe something, I think it's hysterical. So I was sitting next to JJ on the couch at the research station. I was like, JJ, you got a second? Come here. Sit down. I was like, look at this. I was like, I showed him the video and it's like me and you talking about the guy that got kidnapped. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, we looked for him so hard. He's like, that was so crazy. So scary, right? And I went, no, JJ, look at the comments.
Trust me,
And
bro.
and he was like, wait. He's like, they don't, what? And I'm like, no, they don't believe it. And he was like, why? He's like, that one. He was like, that's stupid. But then I was like, the story of the floating forest and jumping on the anaconda. And he was like, we ended up howling laughing because we were looking at all these people on YouTube who have never, been
You
outside.
got to walk around with a GoPro on your head, man.
Oh my
That's
God.
the only thing that'll
Well, I
make
mean,
people
I
believe.
think we do a pretty good job. I think that,
I think you do a great job. I'm just saying how ridiculous they are.
the fact that we caught an 18-foot snake and we saw one that was 7 feet bigger and we didn't get to catch it. It's like, well, that's, if you need it.
Can you tell that story for people who haven't heard it about catching the snake?
Which one? So
The anaconda.
So me and JJ were on this environment that we call the floating forest. And the floating forest is a place where the lake has come up to the tops of the trees. And so it's a very deep lake, but the tops of the trees are connected by these grassy mats that are growing in between the tops of the trees. And the anacondas have used this sort of as their mecca. They all go there. There's streams that connect it. And so all the anacondas stay at the floating forest because they have the strategic advantage that if anything walks on these floating islands, they know about it. The entire place is just this giant tympanic membrane in that way. So the top of the water trembles and the anacondas, that's their alarm system. And so they can bask in the sun and just know that they're totally safe. And then, so they all go there. That's where they breed. That's where they hang out. That's where they socialize. JJ and I had gone there. And on the first night that we went there, on the first night that we discovered that we could walk on the grassy mats that are over the water, we found a snake that I now know was somewhere in the order of 25 to 27 feet long. The only measurements that I know from this snake is that I jumped on this snake, tried to wrap my arms around it, and I couldn't touch my fingers. I could not touch my fingertips. And I know this because on the grass, as I was being propelled forward, I was basically riding a snake. And as I'm being dragged across the grass, the mats are porous. They're floating in the water. And so I shoved my hands under to try and couldn't do it. That's how thick the snake was. And so it carried me for some time. And then when we got to the edge of this little grassy island, the snake dove. Now she could have turned around, opened her mouth and just toasted me. She went straight down. And this is the middle of the night. This is like 2 a.m. or something. And so my face dunked into the black water. And if I had finally reached my limit, I let go. And then I remember
finally
holding onto the side of the grass, and the snake was going by. And again, I was sort of just, sort of trying to make sure this was real. And the snake, the body's rushing by me, just dumping into the water. And as she went, and then her tail just slipped by and thunk into the water. And I was just left there breathing, just floating up and down in the water going, holy shit. And then I turn around and I look at JJ, and he just wasn't moving. And I was like, you could have helped. And he was like, no. So yeah, that was the biggest one we ever saw. But then throughout the years, the biggest one we ever caught was, so I'm saying, if I'm estimating that one was in the 25-foot range, I don't have an exact length on it. The biggest one that we ever caught was 18 feet 6 inches, which we've checked all of scientific literature. That doesn't sound that big, but it's
fucking huge.
Biggest one that's been verifiably measured.
How do you catch it?
That is, once again, we went to a different place where there was floating vegetation, where there was rumored to be a snake that was huge. Nobody knew how big it was. And we went out and we checked on day one, nothing. And we had assembled all the best people. I tried to get some of my best friends, Lee, Mosin, Pat, JJ. There's all these people that were together, and we formed this Anaconda team. Our guy, JJ's brother, Pico, who can't really walk because of a disability, but he was the boat driver and he knows the jungle. So we were all out there, just this sort of dream team of Anaconderos. And we checked the place day one, no snakes. Checked the place day two, no snakes. And then there's something that happens in the Amazon where sometimes the temperature drops. They call it friaje in it. The temperature drops very low. It gets actually cold. It'll go down to 50 degrees.
In the Amazon?
In the Amazon.
By the equator?
Edge of the Andes, yes. And so the mountain air settles down in the jungle, and for a while it gets freezing cold. Now, a few days of freezing cold for a reptile like an anaconda, which is an ectotherm. We're endotherms. We produce our own body heat. They're ectotherms. They rely on their ambient temperature for their body heat. They are dying for the sun, and it's been cold and cloudy for days. And we go back out, and we're on this like 20-foot canoe. And we're going and we're passing this island of floating vegetation. And I can just see JJ turn. And he's like, there's a snake right there. I get to the front of the boat. He's always, there's so many moments of my life, defining moments in my life that start with JJ grabbing my shoulders. And we both look down his finger and he goes right there. And he's like, that's where it is. And I get to the front of the boat. They put the boat right up in. I jumped in. I threw my hat because I didn't want to lose it. And I grabbed this snake, and then as soon as I grab this snake, she dives, and now we're floating. So what happens when you grab a snake that weighs 220 pounds and is 18 feet long, and it's thrashing in the water? And I'm
going all over.
So I'm just getting destroyed in the water, and all the other team is jumping in, and you just see boom, 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 people hitting the water. Everybody's grabbing onto the snake, but there's nothing to hold on to. The grass is coming apart. We're sinking. The snake has grabbed onto something, and I see JJ. And we know we have a film crew with us. We're trying to do this for research. This is the defining moment of the expedition. And JJ and this guy Jonas, who was on the trip with us, the two of them were like, we have to get the head. Everything is you have to get the head. And usually I'm the person that gets the head. But in this situation, I had a lock on like the tail. And I'm posted up against this branch trying to keep the tail. And I just see these guys like, in that moment, everything's happening. There's splashing water. And I just made eye contact with them right before they just went... and they go under, and that under there they're rope climbing along Anaconda body looking for the head. And my question is, if you find it, then what?
Yeah, isn't it just gonna? That's when it's gonna defensively
that's
try
when
to
it's
eat
going
you.
to defensively try to eat you. And if you get wrapped under there,
yeah, goodbye.
Yeah, so that was
I've seen the movie Anaconda.
That was one of the most insane things I've ever seen in my life. And so then at some point they had part of the body, and I was losing the tail, and the people are drowning, and then all of a sudden, 15 feet over there, the head pops up. The anaconda needed a breath. As we're fighting and everything, the anaconda needed to take a breath. And so the head popped up over there. Somebody saw it from the boat. I ran over there. And then that's one of those moments where you just go, and I got my hands on the head. And then it's
like where on the, like
right
behind the
head,
neck?
right behind the neck. So it can't I could, again, thick neck.
Now, what did it do? Like
it
freak out?
I actually I can't remember if it opened its mouth or not. There is GoPro of that moment. I had a chest GoPro on.
Do we have that on the internet?
It's not on the internet. I can send it to you. I can send it to you.
Send it to me. We'll put it in the corner of the screen.
I get her by the head, and then I just remember thinking, sort of, here we go. Okay, I'm going to do this. And then the next thing that's going to happen is she's going to wrap me. And I just said, I'm going to do it. And all my friends are here, and I hope it's going to be okay. So I grabbed her by the head, and that was a moment that I really had to just be like, whatever happens next, happens next. And then the snake did. She started coiling, and the next thing that I remember is when hands got onto my shoulders, and then they pulled us onto the boat, me and the snake, wrapped up together. Boom, into
With
the
you
boat.
in the middle, like being coiled around.
Not constrict. She was really just trying to get away. She was not even defensively trying to crush me. She was just trying to get away. So she was wrapping
How big's
me.
the boat?
This boat was big enough. Would they flop us? Boom. I go into the boat and everyone starts high-fiving and I'm still holding onto this
There's a
snake's head.
live
It's like,
snake, an 18-foot anaconda.
yeah, but we did it. And we didn't die.
Yeah, but like, she's not dead.
No, I mean, I had the head and then everybody else was on the body. We
reassuring.
got control. And so, yeah, we did it.
So
and
you
then
just sat on her like a chair the rest of the way?
and then we went right over to the side, stretched her out, measured her 18 feet, 6 inches. We weighed her 220 pounds, everything.
Did you have snake hooks at that point?
No, there's no. You couldn't hold anything. That's funny. I laughed but there's nothing that you can't lift her up. She's too heavy. It's like
How much did she weigh? 18 feet to 6 inches.
220 pounds. But she was skinny. She hadn't
I was
eaten
going
in
to say,
months.
that's a skinny fucking.
She was very
That's
skinny.
way
She was
lower than
skinny.
I thought you were going to say.
So think if she'd eaten anything, she would have been a 300-pound snake.
That even sounds low.
Not for 18 feet.
Really?
No. But
That fucking snake that was trying to eat you on that show, that was only 300 pounds?
that, I don't know. What's that effect when people remember something that didn't happen? Because the show, there was never, at the end of that show, they pull out like a little 16-foot snake. Not the 16-foot anaconda isn't tiny, but it's not a record breaker.
Right.
A 16-foot anaconda next to a person, there's no way it's going to eat a person. And all they did in the end was drape it over. It really not much happened. So the biggest event of that was the capture I'm describing, was the wild capture of this snake. That was
What'd you do with it?
we measured her, we weighed her, and then we inserted a tracking device down her throat. So she was going to carry it. No, she carried it for a few months and then she pooped it out. But what we
Couldn't
got,
chip her?
we didn't have it on hand, but we did have a really cool tracking device. And so we were able to monitor her activity over the next few months, which
What did that look like?
when on earth has a ancient, who knows how old she is? Is she 50 years old? Is she 100 years old? Is she 20 years old? You don't know how old the snake is. They have indeterminate
There's no
growth.
way to tell?
Not really. It's not like it's not like an elephant where you could check her teeth or something. But it was one of the first times that we were able to see how anacondas use their environment. Because what we do know is we're learning right now that smaller male anacondas will very much pursue their prey. If you read the textbooks from 10 years ago, they'll say anacondas are ambush predators and they sit in one spot for a long time until an animal walks by. Well, that's not true. They use the streams and they use their scent to go up the streams and to look for prey. And they're smarter than we think too. They employ strategies that you probably wouldn't think an anaconda could use. But the large females, when else in history has an 18-foot snake had a transmitter in it? This is science that no one's been able to do before. So getting a window into these things has been a way to understand something about the largest snakes on the planet that never has been understood before, especially in the Western Amazon. The only place that anacondas had been studied was the Venezuelan Llanos.
Can we pull that up on a map? What's it called? Venezuelan
Llanos. LL. Yeah, that.
That's the only place anacondas were
studied because this guy Jesus Rivas was doing tons of anaconda work. He's this anaconda specialist who.
So they're not all over the Amazon?
They are. The Venezuelan Llanos isn't even in the Amazon, I believe. I think it's north of the Amazon. It's way up in Venezuela.
Huh.
But Jesus Rivas would go around barefoot, walking through this wetland, catching anacondas. But on the whole, they're not as big as the ones that are in the Amazon. They're generally a small, they just aren't growing as large. In the Amazon, you get these snakes where, something that started off as a little, 2-foot little baby snake. You get snakes that they'll find a spot where they have guaranteed food.
Capybara, stuff like that.
Yeah, let's just say it's a place that animals come every week to drink. And this big anaconda parks herself in the edge of this swamp, a nice deep swamp that she can hide in. Capybara comes by, takes a drink, boom, she nails it. She goes under, she sleeps for 6 months, pops her head up every 20 minutes to take a breath. Nobody's gonna eat her so she's safe while she's sleeping off
so
that
they
capybara.
can't breathe underground. They can't breathe underwater at all.
No. Except for fish, nothing really can. But the whole thing is strategic safety, because if a jaguar was to see that anaconda right now, jaguar would go and kill that anaconda. But if this big anaconda, this female, because now anacondas like peacocks, sexual dimorphism, you have difference. The females are much bigger than the males.
Yeah.
3 or 4 times the size of the males. And so let's just say you have this tiny little baby anaconda, and it grows up to be 10 feet, 11 feet. And so it's getting to be a decent sized snake, and it finds that perfect spot in that swamp, and it can pinch off an animal regularly. And so every time it's right along a game trail, and every time. So if it's just deleting an animal, capybara, boom, wait a few months, just sleep it off, capybara, boom, and then do that for 35 years.
With something like a capybara, would it just try to immediately swallow that, or would it do the whole...
No, it has to. Oh, capybara have teeth, man, like beaver teeth. So if that anaconda catches the capybara by the arm, if it's not a perfect strike, and that capybara turns around, it'll chew the anaconda in half. Yeah. That's why that's why they wrap it and they crush. That's why they crush everything. They crush the life right out of it. It also makes it a better, more agreeable shape to swallow.
Yeah.
But I'm so fascinated by this element that if you get the perfect spot, whether it's a crocodile or an anaconda, but especially with the anacondas in the Amazon, you the perfect location, this giant anaconda, and then you routinely allow her food. Boom, boom, boom. Every month she's nailing something. She's just going to grow to unbelievable sizes. And so an 18-foot snake is big. The 25-foot was a whole, it's like, like you said, like Asian elephant versus African elephant. Yeah. It's an order of magnitude bigger. It's a whole different ball game.
Because everything about them is bigger.
Everything is so much bigger. And so my reasoning goes, if we've caught an 18-footer and if we've seen a 25-footer, there has to be a 35-footer out there somewhere. Like it has to be. And if there's a 35-footer out there somewhere, I want to see her. I don't even care about catching her. I don't care about photographing her.
Might be the last thing you see, Paul.
It might be the last thing I see, but man, the rush from seeing that. Imagine just. So one time I was in a kayak. I was in a pack raft. Shout out to alpaca rafts. I was in a pack raft, and it was the morning, and I'm just going, and I'm again floating vegetation, grass, and I'm going past this grass, and I just like bloop, surprise this anaconda. You know when like John Travolta comes out of the bathroom and Bruce Willis is standing there with the machine gun and they're both like, oh shit. I looked and the anaconda saw me and I saw the anaconda and I was like, oh shit. And the anaconda just went, no, and just jumped in the water. And it was probably about this big. So you're talking like a 15-foot anaconda, but imagine if it had been this one, and it was a big one.
Bye-bye.
No, it would be bye-bye if I imagine it would happen like this, which I would never do. But it would be like you go to the edge of this godforsaken swamp deep in the jungle, which again, you're this deep in the jungle, far from where hunters go, deep, deep, deep in some corner of the Amazon where this anaconda has been living for half a century. And you'd have to like go bend down to the water to wash your hands or something. And then that's when she would explode out and grab you by the neck and coil you and crush your entire rib cage and suck you down. Yeah, sure. I mean, or by the ribs, who knows? But I'm saying this giant anaconda that we're talking about doesn't pose a risk to us because she's not going to be near the city. She's not going to be where humans are. She's going to be deep in the Amazon. And if you walk your ass deep into the Amazon and invest the days and the gasoline and the effort to get that deep into the jungle and then decide to go fuck around by the edges of the swamps that you find there, then
I salute, baby. That's it.
Yeah. There was a family. Now, the other hand is like a snake like that. There was a family that moved to our region of the Amazon from the mountains.
How big is that snake, you think?
I would say
12 feet?
8. It doesn't look like a big snake to me.
Okay.
But like that snake in that environment could be dangerous to a child. There was a kid, an 8-year-old kid was killed by an anaconda.
Eaten.
He was almost eaten. The family found him while the snake was going over his shoulders, and they like hit it off with sticks, and the snake pulled off and then dove into the water and was gone. They didn't actually kill the snake, which is interesting. They actually called us to remove. They just wanted us to remove the snake from their swamp, and we spent a few days camping there. We didn't find anything.
Do we have a picture of anaconda with human in its belly?
You won't find anaconda. You will find reticulated python with
Wait, what?
Indonesian grandmother in its belly.
All right, well, let's look that one up.
Reticulated python. They are the only confirmed.
What a Google.
that was the most.
That was right on point, Chris. The images.
That was the most accurate Google ever. See, yeah, one of these.
The one on the far right, missing Indonesian
Or even
grandmother.
python eats 54-year-old grandmother in Indonesia. Like there's a video. They actually, they cut her out. It ate her. No. The one with the writing where it says python eats 54. Yeah, that one. Yeah. There's an actual video. See there the second bottom thumbnail where the guy's reaching in that. That's the one.
All right,
there it is.
let's grab this. How long ago was this?
I don't know. It's within the last 10 years.
2018. All right, go down. There should be a video, right? Yeah. Oh, it's unavailable. See if you can go straight to YouTube and say Indonesian grandmother swallowed. It's bad that I kind of want to see this, but I kind of want to see this.
I mean,
Swallowed by anaconda. Paul Rosolie's going to come up. Yeah, he did. Oh, that was too good.
Damn it.
All right. Grandma Indonesia. It wasn't anaconda. That's why I fucked it up. It was a reticular python.
Oh, come on.
Oh, they're blaring it
Yo,
out.
I have an internet question, okay? Where else can you go? Like, if you don't want to see shit that's blurred out, like, is there like a website that's like no holds barred?
The dark web.
What is the dark web? How does one get
Stay
on
out
the
of
dark
it, Paul.
web?
Stay out of it, Paul. You know, I
but
don't
just,
need
like,
you.
tell
I don't
me
need you getting
stories.
arrested. How do you even access? Do you know how to access the dark web, Chris?
No. What? What's Rumble?
No. Like the dark web, like where Silk Road was and all
What the
that.
fuck is the dark web?
That's it. You just need a VPN.
But is the dark web like a website?
No, the dark web is like, well, I'm not the person to answer that question that well, but it's like, it's places where everything illegal happens,
Okay.
including by the way, awful shit, awful.
I'm sure.
Like the worst.
The internet is bad enough.
Yeah.
No, but the reason I'm asking is that there's so many times where you search do you remember E-Bombs World?
Yes.
Remember those websites where you could go and there'd just be crazy shit?
Yeah.
And I feel like in the last few years, you can't really find the crazy shit.
It's harder.
It's
You're
getting
right.
harder.
You're right.
Like for a while, I remember then I think it was Al Qaeda was killing journalists and stuff, and those
ISIS.
videos, ISIS.
Yeah.
And we'd get those videos, and you just click on it, and
It's
there it was, and it's now we can't even watch Grandma get cut out of a python. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah, I mean AI has helped with that. AI spot shit.
Spots the bad stuff.
Yep. Even when I had Joby Warwick in here, who one of the Pulitzers he won was for the book Black Flags, which is on ISIS. It's the greatest book ever written about the history of ISIS.
The most fascinating terrorist figure I think I've ever come across. We're familiar with Bin Laden. Bin Laden and Zawahiri, then his number 2 guy, they were of a completely different type. These were people who were professionals. Bin Laden was an engineer. His number 2 was a medical physician, so they're educated, sophisticated people. They have sort of a strategic vision of this terrorist organization it's trying to create. Zarqawi was none of that. He was just a street tough.
And all we did was put the word ISIS in the title, and I had to work with YouTube 3 different times to remonetize it because YouTube, the company, was like, "Oh yeah, this content's fine, monetize."
Yeah.
And then even when I had to go back to them to fix it because
AI
it got
was-
demonetized, the AI kept on undoing their work.
Whoa.
That was a little
Because it was
creepy.
ISIS. It
'Cause
didn't
just 'cause it
understand.
had the
It
word
didn't
ISIS in
understand.
it.
Okay.
Because in the past, apparently, and I didn't have firsthand experience with this, but the way I've read it is that in the past, when ISIS was coming up, one of the ways they were able to spread is because videos were spreading like wildfire on platforms like YouTube of like the worst shit before YouTube human beings could go in and fix it.
Established the fear.
Correct.
Right?
So now it just there's like auto tags for stuff. So I know if I bring in Joby, all right, let's not put ISIS in the title.
But I still kind of want, I guess defeating ISIS is more important than this, but I still kind of want like a no holds barred, like a YouTube with like an insane no holds, like a setting you could put on YouTube where you're just like, look, just show me, as long as it's not like completely, it's not completely illegal, but if you're like, bus knocks woman's skull out of her skin, I'm just like, I just want to see, okay, I don't want to see it anymore. Like, I just want to be able to.
You're going to have to do that at a company that's not a publicly traded company like Google.
Wow. No, but I'm saying we really saw the internet then. It really was the Wild West when we were growing up. Because for a while, there were those websites where like you could just, there was like dash cam shit where it was like you'd see some crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff that would reorganize how you think about the world. You'd be like, what did I just see?
Now when you post something with a little too much blood, there's like a fucking fog label on it going, this content has been flagged as sensitive. Find out why.
I'm just trying to think of the last thing I posted that people were begging me to put there was some post I did in the last month where people were like, how could you not put a warning on this post?
Go fuck yourself.
Oh God,
Don't
I'm not posting anything bad. There's so many other people you could follow.
They're talking about making a law in the UK. I saw this recently, but they're talking about a law that says they're going to like ban social media for 16 and lower. And like there's some slippery slopes to that for sure. I'm not saying I agree with it, but it's interesting because then if they did that, could you take the handcuffs off these companies then? Because it's like, well, you're old enough to be on here. You're old enough to see what you can.
See, I don't think though. I don't think that. I actually disagree. I think that you wouldn't want. I only really do Instagram, but I wouldn't want. It's such a positive place. And I'm saying that from a truly like. To me, when I go on Instagram, my Instagram is wildlife photographers, kickflips, mountaineers, whales, dolphins. It's just so much fun shit, and it's a lot of people I know in the community. I don't want to have to worry about bad shit on Instagram. As it is, the Israel and Palestine thing, I unfollowed like 16 people because I was just like, even friends of mine, I get it that you care. I don't want that shit in my life. I don't want to see that. That's some horror. Actually, those videos are making it through.
Some of them.
But some of the ones that made it through, like
there's a lot. You got to remember though, there's like 2 million videos an hour going up. So so
it's making it through. But I'm saying like there was a while where, because I had come back from the jungle, and I would just try to go straight to my drafts, just post something, and I would see like the worst shit I'd ever seen, like stuff that would like You can't believe what you just saw, like collapsed buildings on a school and like all this like and actual footage of this stuff. And I was like, whatever this is, whoever this is, I cannot be seeing this. Like I get it. I understand what the word war means. Like, but so yes, for a while that was making it through.
Yeah. I mean,
so we kind of just disproved ourselves right there. I don't want to see that.
But you're not disproving yourself because you're right. There's a lot of it that is policed. I mean, there's shit policed now. Like on YouTube, the first 20 minutes of my videos, I have to go. It's work for me. I do it myself. I have to go in and silence all curse words. I don't do that for Spotify or Apple. But when I started doing that, because it's kind of what the advertisers want, it improved my YouTube tremendously.
Really?
So it goes against how I think of things. Like if you're afraid of words, that aren't like racially related, meaning like if you're afraid of fucking shit, like I'm not the guy for you. Sorry. Yeah. Like I'm from New Jersey.
But I'm surprised that the platforms are doing that though.
Me too. But I it wasn't my idea. I saw that a lot of bigger channels were doing that, and I know these are channels that are definitely in touch with YouTube, and it changed my channel right away when I started doing that, for sure. So, it's sad we got to do that though.
Well, what we need is crazy shit. And we need it. I just want to be able to see if like, let's just say somebody films a snake and it's halfway through eating grandma and her feet are still sticking out of its mouth and the snake is working on her. But then like one of the other workers on the farm is like filming this and you just see her feet going down the snake's mouth. Like, I want to be able to find that video. That's what I'm really trying to say. Okay.
It's all on Telegram.
It's what?
It's all on Telegram.
On
there's-
Telegram.
There's
Oh,
like Telegram channels where it's like you can subscribe to that kind of.
that might be the spot. Interesting.
What is Telegram? What is the dark web?
I mean, you could have anything. It's just like a big group chat. You know,
Telegram?
you could have 50,000 people that are in a. It's kind of like Discord, but like no rules.
Yeah, no rules. It's like a lot
What
of
is Discord?
so like a lot. You know what, Paul? It's good that you
Guys.
don't know these things. Don't worry about it. I don't need to fill your head with this stuff.
No, because the fact that he said, "Oh, this is like this," and you're like, "Oh yeah," and I've never even heard of that.
That's good.
What is it?
Don't worry about
Okay,
it.
fine.
All right. It's
Going back to the jungle,
You're doing
please.
great. You're doing great. Keep doing podcasts and Instagram. We'll keep
Okay.
growing that.
Okay.
By the way, if you're not subscribed to Paul on Instagram, go get that credit card out. It's a great $5 spent. You're putting up a lot of content there now too. I know
I
in the
am,
past,
and I want to start asking you and everybody else, what, like, I want to make it different, and I want to, like, I know what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, I want to just like put like, because I don't feel comfortable. I don't want my main Instagram feed to be what I'm doing every day. But like with like the toucan, like there's so many videos where I'm like, yo, I'm teaching a toucan how to fly. And it's like goofy shit. And it's like, that's what the subscriber thing could be. Like that'll be fun. So I'm still like getting,
and it all
getting the
supports
hang
Jungle
of that.
Keepers
Yeah.
doing that.
Well, yes, JungleKeepers though, the difference is that's my channel. That's under the Paul Rosolie umbrella. JungleKeepers is JungleKeepers. So monthly subscription to JungleKeepers is a different thing.
Oh, you separated them out. What am I subscribed to?
Am
Am I subscribed to you or Jungle
you're-
Keepers or both?
I don't know. You might be. JungleKeepers has so many donors at this
I can't
point
keep
that
them. I can't keep them straight.
I don't have the, like, if I look at the master list, it would take me a while to scroll through it.
That's good.
That's really good.
It wasn't like that 14 months
Instagram,
ago.
I only have a few people,
All right.
and you're one of them. So
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, go do that. I'll find out which. I think I'm on your personal. I might be on Jungle Keepers too, or one or the other. But go do that for sure, people. But what about like when you went down there? Obviously, JJ had lived in this environment his whole life and everything, but he's able to track animals by using some of their sounds too. And he's taught you how to do that. Like, did he start doing that right away when you got down there? And how quickly were you able to pick some of that up?
JJ with animal tracking. See, the crazy thing when you see someone with skill at this level is that, you know, at first you're talking like this, and then you're having a conversation with somebody. You don't know if they're a war hero. You don't know what they've been through. You can't see the sum of experience that a human contains. And when you're walking through the jungle with JJ, you're talking about normal stuff, and he's asking, we're asking each other questions. And then all of a sudden you'll just see him stop and be like, oh, I haven't seen this seed in 20 years. And then he'll tell you this story about this seed, and you're like, how do you remember that seed looks like all the other seeds? Or recently there was this thing where we stopped, and he's teaching me this stuff. And so we're walking, and he stops by the edge of a stream, and he goes, look at that Jaguar print right there. And I was like, oh, nice. And he was like, tell me what you see. I was like, male Jaguar. He was like, good. Congrats. And he was like, what else? So I like look around, and I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, oh shit, it drank. I could see two paws, and the toes were pushed down more. He's like, very good. He's like being patient with me. He's like, yeah, what? Like, he's like, can you get there? I'm like, I'm trying. So I like lay down on the ground. I'm like looking at these tracks, and he's like, look, okay, actually, he's like, there's a reason that we have to go faster than this.
It's right behind you.
Well, he was like, see the tracks that you're looking at? And I was like, yes. He's like, you see how there's like leaves and bits of stuff in there and some pollen like sprinkled over it, and they're kind of dry? And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, look at those. And they're like right over here, there's another drinking set, and the mud was still settling. And I went, wait, what? And he was like, yeah. And I went, wait, hold up. So what we know about jaguars is that jaguars have huge home ranges that they patrol. They're always doing these huge patrols. So I'm like, this is old enough that it's from yesterday and there's leaves in it. And then this is obviously from today. And then there's a huge piece of jaguar shit on the beach, and it's got butterflies all over it. And JJ picks it up. It's pretty dry, and he goes,
he picks up the shit with his
picks
hands?
up the log of shit. It's mostly fur. Pulls out some of the fur, and he goes, "What do you think this is?" And I went, "Red brocket deer." And he goes, "Yes, red brocket deer."
What's that?
It's a deer. It's a small deer that lives in the jungle.
I thought that was one word. Sorry.
And so then I'm like, okay, so wait. And now I'm getting it. And he's like, So the jaguar was here yesterday. The jaguar came here and shit. Red brocket deer, drank today. And then he's like, now look at this. And he takes my shoulder and he turns me around. And there's a vulture. There's a pair of vultures right up on this branch. And I'm like, what's wrong with these vultures? They're not looking at us. They're so close to us, but they're not looking at us. They're looking right over there. Because the jaguar had killed the red brocket deer, had come to the river to drink, gone back to the deer, eaten more, slept, came back, took a drink today, and took a shit. And the vultures weren't looking at us because there was a greater predator just out of our view. The jaguar was sitting on its kill while we're having a conversation about its tracks. It's just on the other side of the bushes.
How far away?
20 feet. While JJ's sitting here telling me all this, he was like, that's why I was trying to rush you. He was like, there's literally a jaguar right behind those leaves. And so he's like, come on, let's go. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, he's like, we probably should just let it eat. And I was like, okay. Yeah. But it's like that stuff like that, you're sitting and his delivery is very, very like that. He's like, yeah, lay down on your stomach, roll around, look at the butterflies, whatever else. And he's just like tracking this jaguar. And he's like, look, at some point you got to finish the test, right? Because we might not have all day. Like,
how close can you get to a jaguar and think it's going to most likely be fine?
It depends on the individual. It depends it depends the tempo at which you meet. So JJ has a story where he told me that and the great thing is he doesn't mind me impersonating his voice. He's seen all the podcast clips. But he told me the story. He was like, yeah, I was walking through the forest, and he goes, so for a while I sit and I was enjoying the forest. And I was like, well, that's really nice, JJ. He goes, yeah. He goes, the cappuccinos are there. And he's talking about the capuchin monkeys. Yeah, he loves saying cappuccinos. And I said, okay. So I'm imagining JJ sitting in the forest on a log looking at the capuchin monkeys. He goes, and then he goes, I see the jaguar. He's also looking at the cappuccinos, but he doesn't see me. So JJ's sitting on a log, chilling, enjoying the monkeys. And this jaguar comes out and is tracking the monkeys, not realizing that JJ's just sitting there. And then he was like, for a while I sat there. He goes, then I move and the jaguar saw me, and he goes, he feels so embarrassed, and he goes. And like in JJ and these guys, they all talk about each animal as if it's like a single character, like the fox does this.
Right.
The jaguar does that. And so, he said, oh, when he saw me, he felt so embarrassed. Like you picture a cat just being like, oh shit, I didn't know you were there. And then it just went off into the jungle. But like he was,
ran from him
20 feet. And, it doesn't have to run. I don't think in this situation, I don't think it ran. I think it just, oh shit, they don't like being watched. They want to be the ones watching. I am the one who knocks, he just, and then he just went off. I've had, I think I told you this one, but I was on a trail one time and I was looking at something off trail and I heard like loud steps. It was the dry season, so there's a lot of leaves on the ground. And I turned around to yell at whoever was walking that loud. And this jaguar walked by and just went, what's up? Didn't break its stride, walked right by me, as close, like your TV is as close as a jaguar was. Just at full speed, walked right by me, just went, yo. Just gave me this little head nod, like, yeah, I know you're there. It's okay. Never stopped walking, didn't care that I was there. And I was just standing there in the jungle with my finger up, like,
oh my God.
And then you go, holy shit, did that just happen? You gotta go put your hands in the prints on the ground. You go, okay, yeah, that was real.
Well, you told the story last time about sleeping on the hammock and waking up to the breath of a jaguar right in your ear, like literally right here, and you were frozen, and then it left. Do you ever wonder why it didn't attack you?
No, I think they're curious, and I think that with cats, with the big cats in the wild, I think that their predatory was going to say their predatory proclivities, but I'll stop at the alliteration. Their predatory knowledge is so based on what their mothers teach them, so dependent on what their mothers teach them, that they're used to handling horizontal prey. So they're used to running after a rabbit. They're used to running after a deer. They're used to how to take down that deer, how to wrap it with your claws, how to get to its throat. And I think that a vertical naked primate that smells like shampoo and Old Spice, and like, I think they just get freaked out. I think they're just like, you know what, this thing has way too many smells, and just I have no idea how to go about killing this thing. I think that before they even go into predation response, I think they're just on curious mode. I think they're just like, I think me in a hammock at night, again, even if I've been in the jungle for days, I still probably smell like a bunch of human things. They can probably smell the old laundry detergent from the last time my clothes were washed. They can probably smell some bug spray that I might have used. They can probably smell the food that I ate yesterday. They probably know things far greater than that. But when this animal comes to you, it's in the situation where that happened, I would have been a jaguar that had never seen a human before, days into the jungle where nobody goes. And so this jaguar would be encountering its first human. So it wouldn't be, if it's smart, which it is, it wouldn't be going, oh, I'm just going to jump on it and sink my teeth into it. What if it bites back? What if it kicks back? What if it,
there's some unknown there.
Yeah, just come over and give a sniff, whatever else. Okay, fucking weird. Then go tell the other jaguars and be like, yeah, you never guess what I saw. It was a floating food. It was in a hammock. Have you guys heard of tacos?
I didn't eat it.
I didn't eat it. I passed on that one.
Oh my God.
And everything in the Amazon, the Amazon proper floods its banks every year, and like I heard that it can flood 13 miles in either direction. So you think of forests that you can walk through, flooded with 10, 15, 20 feet of water, and so every animal has to be able to swim. Tortoises, sloths, monkeys, everybody got to swim. We saw a deer crossing the river not that long ago. No. And it was going straight for a logging camp. And as this deer is motoring towards this logging camp, JJ's like, they're going to kill it. They're going to kill it. And I was like, well, let's do it. Shirt off. Boat driver. We start going to try and get this deer. So I jump in the water. I'm in the water and I'm swimming. It's not there. It's not there.
I saw one with a deer. I know my photographic memory remembers that. You with a little deer?
There might be a photo of me hugging it down. But yes, I got it. I got up to it. I couldn't catch it because they have these slashing sharp hooves. And so JJ got in the river too, and then we both sort of corralled it. We got it by the neck. We kind of caught it like an anaconda. The boat driver's going in circles around us. And then we get this deer up onto the boat, and she kicks me in the chest. And I swear to God, I thought she was going to punch through my ribs. They're so strong. And so I was thinking,
little baby deer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a deer the size of a golden retriever.
Okay.
But still, that wild muscle, that power that they have, if you're a jag and you get on that thing and you don't get it right, it could punch a hole in you, punch a hole straight through your heart. They have knives on their feet. So,
how long ago do we know, or do you know the science of the evolutionary aspect of that? Like how long ago they developed that? Has it been, I assume, tens of thousands of years?
I would go further back than that. I think the deer have been running from the wolves since, so it's always been, the prey animals are always just a hair faster than the predator, and then the predator's got to be smarter and got to be more, more endurance, and there's just this constant slow arms race. And so, in order for the deer to be there at all, they always had to have, incredible stealth, sharp hooves, the intelligence to outsmart a jaguar, and then the jaguars had to have the power to just smack down a deer and rip its throat out before it can kick them and injure them. Because you get one kick in the jungle, you get your skin opened significantly, and then that's it.
That's over.
Then that's it. Everybody's coming in for a feast, and you can't sleep, and then you have bot flies in your skin, and then it gets infected, and then you're dead. And then the jungle eats you, and then it turns you into a tree, and then the tree looks for sunlight, and then it falls over, and then fungus eats it.
The circle of life.
Just a giant death machine. I always say life is just this momentary instant of stasis where it's like, okay, can you maintain this collection of cells before you get recycled back in? And then you turn into something else and then you get recycled back in. And 400 generations later, you come out as a frog and you're like,
God damn it. I didn't deserve this. Before you ever went to the Amazon, had you ever studied some of the ancient history of the Amazon, or did you start looking at that after you initially came?
Before I went to the Amazon, no, it was all animals, but I was also a teenager. So I wasn't.
JJ know a lot about that stuff? Is he like a historian too?
Once again, JJ's knowledge of the Amazon is shocking because, and it's so interesting because living out where he lives in the Amazon, he'll be like, I remember when I first got there, Bush was in office and he was like, tell me about George Bush, and it was such an honest question. I was like, JJ, I don't know the guy. I was like, you've heard the same shit I've heard. And he was like, no, but like, what do you think? And he has this natural curiosity, so, well, okay, fine. But where you're from, what do the people think about the president? It's like, because usually I'm like, I don't want to talk about that shit. And then I was like, but for him, I was like, well, I'll tell you what I know. This is what I've heard. And then we both have this like,
keep it on the D-low.
Yeah. Like we're both like, but when you go, I wonder what the uncontacted do for fire. And JJ will be like, well, you know what I heard? And you're like, what? He's like, well, I'm good friends with the guy that knows a kid that they found floating down a log on the river who used to live with the Uncontacted Tribe. And he says, and like he'll go into how they make the fire. And he'll be like, I heard from this guy. And he'll never forget that nugget that he got.
How do they make the fire?
I have no idea. No, he did. he literally did that to me. He was like, do you know what he said? And he was like, do you want to know how they make it? And I was like, yes. And then he was like, I'll tell you when they're not here, because he didn't want to tell the other people that were like around. And then we just never got back to it. The other thing is one of his brothers. Now this is weird because if I dropped you at my research station right now, at our research station, and said, go hike as long as you want. You have 48 hours. Come back with a rock the size of your fist. You will not be able to accomplish the task.
There's like no rocks there.
There's no rocks. It's clay. By the mouth of a stream, you may be able to find pebbles, like a couple of little quartz pebbles, but that's it. Everything else is clay.
Why are there no rocks again?
Something about geology.
All right, that narrows it down.
Birds. No, I actually haven't. I mean, basically the Amazon used to be an inland sea, right? Like when it split off from Africa, the Proto-Congo River was connected to what was the original Amazon basin, which flowed in the opposite direction. And then they split off from each other, and South America hit the Nazca Plate, which sent the Andes up, which reversed the direction of the flow. And then the Amazon started flowing, but at that time it was a inland sea, gradually flowing out into the Atlantic, desalinizing, which is why we have stingrays, dolphins, manatees that have all become native to the Amazon over those millions of years. And then you have the jungle spring up. So in our region, it's just we're at the edge of the mountains, and I think we're basically on old seabed at some point. And so that's also why the rainforest trees have those huge buttresses that go out, like that video where we're with Matt and that giant tree. Those buttresses go out because the trees stand like chess pieces on the ground. There's no point in putting roots deep into the ground because there's no nutrients down there. The soil is sterile. The particulate, they don't go down at all. Like a 150-foot tree might have roots that are 6 feet deep. Yep. Like one thick taproot for water, and then a couple of little silly things that you could cut with a machete. So that tree is standing there like a chess piece.
How does
it's just
the
standing
physics
there.
of that work?
Well, that's why they have the wide base, just like a chess piece.
I know, but still, that wouldn't get blown over?
It does. The jungle relies on the jungle to protect it from getting blown over. So the wind goes across the jungle. So that's another thing that happens when we see deforestation, is that once you make a wall in the jungle, let's say you clear this, well, then the wind gets in there and starts smacking down the rest of the trees.
Oh my God.
The jungle depends on the jungle to hold each other up. It's like a rugby scrum.
It's like a house of cards.
It really is, because we've seen some really big trees go over.
Wait, but that tree house is on the edge of a fucking cliff?
Yes.
I'm not going in
Don't
that
tell the
goddamn
people.
thing. No, nope. I'll look at you up in it and wave.
Okay. Wait, where were we going? We were going somewhere. Oh, JJ's brother. Okay, so we don't really have rocks, but there are stone tools left over in the jungle from another time. So the uncontacted tribes in their territory, this is where it gets really crazy. And this is where you need someone like JJ to explain what the hell is going on. They found an abandoned camp of uncontacted tribes. Okay. So you have a little palm shelter, you have a little bowl, you have like a few different things scattered around. You can see footprints everywhere.
When did they find this?
This was like maybe 15 years ago. And there was a piece of log that they had been cutting fish or something on. Not fish, because they don't, I was just giving an example, but they actually don't really fish, these people. They don't have fish hooks, and they don't seem to, because we don't have clear water either, they don't shoot their arrows into the water because you can't see the fish. So they just don't fish. So whatever they were doing, JJ's brother found a stone axe head. Now, there are no stones, and these people don't work with stones. So these stones, I went and did the research on this. These stones are left over from, let's say, the Incas. So maybe it was the Incas that came down into the jungle, reconnaissance or looking to something. So maybe 700 years ago they came and they threw a stone axe head on the ground. Uncontacted tribes are walking around everywhere. They find the stone axe head. Interestingly enough, there are tribes that have had this happen to, where they pick up the old stone artifact and they go, the gods are giving us tools. It's just laying on the ground. It's obviously made for us, and their interpretation of it is somebody left it here for us.
Is it a possibility that that stone could have been from the conquistadors? That stone arrow? That wouldn't make sense, right?
No. You can tell. I mean, it's beautifully designed. Not
like
by
Western Europeans.
Not by Western hands. No, it's not the type. You can deeply see it. It looks like Machu Picchu stone. Actually, it really looks Inca. It's a beautiful stone, heavy stone axe, with a little notch in it for, where you could tie it to something or grip it and probably just use it with your hand. It's an amazing piece. But again, if I was to find that on the beach, I would have been like, wow, the uncontacted people made a stone axe. And like these guys are like, no, they didn't do that. And here's 9 reasons why. And they understand the history. And then back to Graham Watkins is you do see indications where humans lived, that humans lived there. So for instance, Graham Watkins? Graham Hancock? No, wait, who the hell is Graham Watkins?
I don't know. I was like, does he mean Graham Hancock?
I might just be mixing people's names together.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Might be 2 guys, whatever.
But no, so the thing is, there's this constant debate. Like, was there more people in the Amazon? Was there not? I mean, yes, there was a lot of people in the Amazon. There's still, 20, 30 million people that live in the Amazon today. But what's interesting when you go around, let's say we're on the river for 2 weeks, you go through places where you could tell by the vegetation that it's completely wild primary forest. There's giant kapok trees, there's ironwood trees. If you go really wild, there's even mahogany trees still. There's incredible primary climactic forest out there. Then you get to a confluence where there's 2 rivers, and suddenly you'll see like a banana tree. Well, somebody stopped there and dropped it because bananas were engineered in Asia and came over. So obviously somebody that had some connection to the outside world at some point stopped there, and that's how that got there. So we know that. And so that's where you start to see this. The crazy thing is that these guys all know. My local team, if you ask guys like Victor or JJ who have been out, 15 days past the last village by boat, they'll tell you, oh yeah, there's you can go for 15 days and it's totally wild, but then there's this one spot where we do find pottery. And pottery, you're talking about pre-uncontacted tribes. You're talking about
6,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago.
I don't know. I don't know how many thousands of years ago, but you're talking about more than 500 years ago. You're talking about like the civilizations that came before the modern era. Because 500 years ago,
how much do we know about those?
Absolutely nothing. And I feel like it's all guesswork because everything I've read is, okay, so there's the Pleistocene overkill extinction theory that says that the mastodons and the giant ground sloths and the glyptodons and all those things, that the megafauna that went extinct from North America, which is a huge, awesome wormhole to go down. But
Let's
they say,
go down it.
Okay, well, they're saying that, if Clovis man came from the Bering Strait and entered North America first, okay, and then moved down into Central America, okay, and then somehow got into the Amazon, and then that's the basis. That's humans getting to the Americas. They came, Africa, Asia, over and down. This is what I was always taught. And then they said, well, humans were responsible, not just the changing temperatures, not just the end of the ice age, but humans were also responsible for pushing the mastodons to extinction. And you say, but how many humans were there? And if you listen to the math of, a human clan and how many mastodons they would take down per month, per year, how they could just follow the herds and hunt them whenever they wanted to, and they would just basically annihilate these animals, how there are still giant ground sloth burrows, caves that you can walk in from these giant 13-foot tall giant ground sloth burrows in Brazil. But now here's the crazy part where all that was going, is that the extinction dates match up with that theory. So mastodons and giant ground sloths extinct in North America 15,000 years ago. Mastodons and giant ground sloths extinct in Central America 10,000 years ago. Giant ground sloths extinct on the islands like Haiti and Cuba 5,000 years ago. And it corresponds with when humans got there, because they didn't get there until 5,000 years later. So it's like a pretty smoking gun type of relationship between when these animals blinked off.
Take me to that last part again. It correlates 5,000 years ago. Correlates why?
This is what I read, that as humans made their way down North America into Central America and then down to South America, you start to see the species blinking out, the megafauna of the Pleistocene. And so if 15,000 years ago the last ground sloth walked on North America, so 15,000 years ago the last ground sloth walked on North America, then Central America soon after, maybe around 12,000 years ago, but that the ground sloth didn't go extinct on the islands until 5,000 years ago, a shorter timeline. And then in Brazil, you still have, these were dug by a giant ground sloth, these caves. So the edges of that cave were carved by the hands, by the claws of a massive extinct mammal.
That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, imagine
this thing
a
is huge.
13-foot tall giant ground sloth, a huge herbivore, slow moving, that ancient civilizations of humans wiped out. That's one of like the major cryptozoology things, is some people still believe that there could be populations of giant ground sloths still living in the Amazon.
Underground.
There could be a place where they're living underground.
That puts a chill up my spine.
Can you go back to this just like one page back? I just want to see if they have a picture of what it looked like for a giant, I don't know, like what a giant ground sloth. Yeah, like look at and then the craziest, like look at those skeletons. Like the craziest thing is the story of how the North American giant ground sloth was discovered is actually discovered by Thomas Jefferson. Because Thomas Jefferson used to love to assemble skeletons. And at the time, he was assembling mammoth mastodon skeletons. And what actually was happening, so when he sent Lewis and Clark out, they were tasked with finding where the mastodons were.
Oh, shit.
I mean, that was one of their mandates.
Okay.
And then African slaves identified and said, hey, some of these bones that you're finding, these are elephants. He was like, well, where the hell are the elephants? And according to his beliefs, is the Christianity, he believed that extinction wasn't possible. So he was like, they just must have moved to another part of North America.
Yeah,
and then
explain it away.
As he was assembling mammoth bones, he discovered the giant ground sloth. And that's why I believe the North American giant ground sloth is Megalonyx jeffersoni, which described by a president.
Wow. I don't know any of this. This is like a whole new rabbit hole I got to go down.
Yeah. But I mean, imagine North America with a whole different set of giant animals walking around on it. And apparently we killed them all.
Well, Ryan's, I think, like slightly friends with those guys. I forget their name, but he wants to get them on the podcast here. I definitely want to do it with those guys who are trying to recreate the woolly mammoth right now.
Yep.
I saw the eye roll right there.
I,
I saw the eye roll.
That
The camera saw it too.
No. There was no eye roll. I don't know what you're talking about. I was taking a drink and I saw the light. Blinding.
This is a safe space. You can,
Is it?
You can tell me
Is
what
it
you
safe?
think.
No one's gonna hear this, right?
What you don't like the idea of recreating old species?
I think it's a great idea. I just don't think that that's creating a species.
I don't know enough about it to counter that, but like,
Exactly.
What do you mean?
I think that. Okay. There's an article in the New York Times from like 1917 where they're like, flight is impossible. It won't be achieved for another 100 years. And of course, like 2 years later, the Wright brothers nailed it. And whoever wrote that article was dead ass wrong. But an animal is not just a pile of cells. So yes, you could take mammoth DNA and put it back into an Asian elephant's egg and get a 98% woolly mammoth, and then in 2 generations or whatever they have a whole plan to get back to woolly mammoths. But here's my question. If you remember the fact that elephants mourn their dead, if you remember the fact that you'd be creating a new hybridized species that doesn't have any peers, it doesn't have any others of its kind. It's a strange concept to me. I don't also believe them.
You don't believe them?
No, I don't believe they're as close as they say they are. I think it's a lot of hype. I think it's a hype machine. I'd love to be proved wrong. I would love to see a woolly mammoth in my lifetime, but this is kind of like the aliens thing. It's like, show me. And until you can,
That's
I'm not
fair.
interested.
That's fair.
The other thing is, what they should do is if they bring back the woolly mammoth, then they should put them out in their natural environment and let them walk around and use that to help protect Siberian tigers and totally rewild some of that ecosystem. And that would probably be a huge economic driver for the far east of Russia where wild space is, which would be amazing. It would turn it into something really positive.
They'll never let them give that shit to Putin. Be like, no woolly mammoth for you, Vlad.
So exactly. So where do these new woolly mammoths live? Who teaches them how to be woolly mammoths?
Not Hoboken. Tell you that.
Not Hoboken. There's a lot of questions. I think what I'm struggling against is that I have a deep respect for the fact that when you catch a fish, that fish is a descendant of fish that have been surviving in those rivers for millions of years. It is a story as old as the river. And we were fishing in the Amazon not that long ago. And we pulled up this giant paco and it flopped into the boat and it was going around, and like even eating it, like it was such an important thing. It was like this animal is you're touching this animal that can only exist because it has been part of a lineage that was the most successful versions of this fish for millions and millions and millions and millions of years until it came to you. And that is such a complex thing. It's such a unique thing. And that goes for all these animals, especially wild animals, whether it's a harpy eagle, whether it's a fox, whether it's a snail, it doesn't matter. It's the result of an incredible amount of evolutionary work. And I just hear people throwing around a lot of big speak these days.
Yeah.
Oh, this is how we're going to live on Mars. Okay. This is how, the woolly mammoths are going to make your bed.
Yeah.
Can you even stop tigers from going extinct before you start trying to reanimate your new, Franken mammoths? Yeah. To me, as someone that's spent my life on the front lines of trying to defend species and ecosystems that exist right now,
we can't even do that.
We can't even do that. So what is this genetic experiment proving to us? And then this kind of goes back to the same thing where you're like, well, if the Amazon was a garden that's made by humans, we can just do whatever we want to it. Right. It's like, well, if humans, if animal species are just things that we can just delete and then reanimate, I mean, maybe that's the case. Maybe I'm wrong. You know what I mean? In that case, great. Let's bring back the Caspian tiger. Let's bring back T-Rexes. But
it's also, here's the one caveat to that, though. It's also human nature.
Yeah.
If you run a company, a service business of some sort, let's say it's like an advertising business, and you get a client, you get a big client, you're really excited about that. And
sure.
we got Don Draper sitting on the wall in 2 different pictures back there. And I remember in that show when they landed a big client one time, Roger Sterling looked at him and said, the first day you have a client is the first day you're closer to losing them. There's something about once we have the fish in the boat and we have the catch, we don't appreciate what we have, but we're always looking for the new fish to get into the boat. And so I feel like the truth lies probably in the middle of where you are and where they are. And that means that we do have to do a way better job at making our bed, right? And taking care of the things we have. And we shouldn't get too far ahead of ourselves, worried about all these things when we can't even keep ourselves in order.
Yeah.
But B, we do have the technological means to do some of what they say.
Sure.
That said, I like that you look at it the way you do with like a grain of salt and caution, because we all know what people do. Everyone's trying to sell a big game with shit. That's why people on the internet look at stories you say, for example, and go, that can't be true, right?
Because they're
like,
used to the shit sale.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
But now here's the thing, and this is an important distinction. I do agree with you that, and I heard Elon Musk say this when people were going after him, going, how could you spend all this money going to space when we can't even fix the environment? And he went, not everything is about a tragedy. He goes, some things are about, that's human nature. We want to celebrate and see what we can do and land rockets. And yes, some of it has to just because we can. And so that's where I say, if we can bring back woolly mammoths, let's try it. But then the other side of that is, it doesn't interest me that much. I'm way more interested in hearing that we're going to have, if you told me that we were going to have double the population of black rhinos in 10 years, I'd be like, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Woolly mammoths, that would be a
fuck the woolies.
No, I'd love to see
Rosolie 2024. Fuck the woolies.
No. I would love to see a woolly mammoth, man. That would be cool. But I want it to be done right. I want to see it. There's something. It's just like the way that, people, I've had so many people come up to me and be like, oh, did you hear they're bringing back woolly mammoths? It's like, oh, did you hear they traded Jeter? It's like, bro, it's not even real yet. Like, you're talking about it like it's real. Like, it's not real yet.
Yeah,
I'm open to it, but
yes, I understand.
Just like people, do you want to see me lift this car? It's like, okay, Chuck, show me. I'm such a skeptic. I just don't believe anyone.
Have they found anything? Have there been any cool archaeological findings or anthropological findings? I guess that's kind of the same thing in the Amazon recently that are maybe charting back to some of the origins of it?
Well, the origins of the Amazon go back way before we got there, but
Africa floating in between with Congo and all that shit.
I haven't. My radar hasn't ticked for anything new except for that the LiDAR stuff. We're going to start to be able to see what's beneath the canopy because 150 feet is a lot.
Yes.
Picture a 150-foot tall pyramid. You wouldn't be able to see it.
Hold that thought, by the way.
Yeah.
We're coming back to that, but keep going.
Oh yeah. They're out there. They're out there.
All right, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. LiDAR. I'm going to get to the pyramid in a minute.
LiDAR is going to allow us to see what's the actual topography is beneath the trees. And so if, let's just say there's a hidden pyramid that was built on top of the last civilization of giant ground sloths and the uncontacted tribes are sitting there growing gold out of orchids and protecting the giant ground sloths and drinking ayahuasca, well, then LiDAR is going to help us find it.
All right, well, let's go right there. Because last time, the first episode we did, you left people with an enormous cliffhanger at the end, which was huge blue balls. But we were talking about Percy Fawcett, which is one of my favorite topics. You really got me into that. And that whole guy's life. And we've talked about that on a bunch of other podcasts since you've been here. So most people listening have heard that story. But you mentioned on top of that you had heard from someone else who was like I think if I'm remembering the context right, was like a historian of Fawcett and the search for El Dorado, who told you the general area where openly they're like, there's two pyramids right there and there's tribes that have never even been contacted by the uncontacted tribes we know about.
Yeah. So could you pull up buried pyramid or like maybe Machu Picchu before and after, because some of these archaeological sites, when they find them, look at this, archaeological sites before and after, when they find them, or like, can you type in jungle covered pyramid before and after? Sorry, that's really long. But
jungle covered pyramid before and after.
Because these are some of the pyramids I want to say in Mexico or Belize. This is not my area of expertise, but I saw this thing the other day.
Oh, the one right there, the second one so down.
When they find them, they're covered with jungle.
And back left. Yep, that one.
Like,
is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but see, that one's been cleaned up. That one's been like, that's still got like that's like been made into a landing strip. Like there's ones where it's just jungle. It's just jungle. And like so just type in Machu Picchu before and after. This will give you an idea. Because when they found Machu Picchu, it really just looks like the side of a mountain. Look at this. Look, before and after. So when Hiram Bingham went up there.
That one?
Yeah, right. That's perfect. Yep. Look at that.
Whoa.
So you would never know there was an ancient city under that jungle. See if you can. Sorry, can you go back and just find the
LiDAR?
Yeah, you go. There you go. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. So when he went up there, think about looking out and you just see some bushes. You're like, oh, some bushes, and then you don't even realize what's under there.
How old is this?
What year? 104 years. Well, I don't remember what year.
Scroll that back.
How old is Machu Picchu, or how old is
this?
Was it this? This is Machu Picchu now. I was just there a few months ago.
No, but when did this emanate from? Like, so this is how they found it.
Inca. Dude, and they
that
built
much vegetation happened over this because the Inca aren't that long ago.
Hundreds of years, a few hundred years.
Yeah, but still. That's all rock.
Vegetation, dude. If you leave the jungle, right now, look at what you're looking at right now with those grassy steppes and the rocks. If you left that for, I'm going to say 2 years, you wouldn't be able to see a thing.
So their groundskeepers are working on this every day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know, but I mean, this is a little bit higher in elevation than where I work. Like we're down in the lowlands. This is up high. If you have like a shed, let's just picture like anybody's backyard shed, and you leave that, and you cut a little square around the shed and put the shed in the jungle. You leave for 2 years and come back, it's gone. Termites, trees, that's gone.
Eats itself.
Yeah. And again, anything you level, if there's jungle around it, the animals will just, the seeds and everything will just like dandelion down onto the ground, and just the jungle grows up. The balsa trees, the cecropia trees, all those pioneer species will just grow up. And then as their leaves fall, you get a little bit of leaf litter on the ground. And sooner or later, a bat drops an ironwood seed on the ground. Boom, all of a sudden you got an ironwood growing. And it's got sunlight too, because you're in a clearing. So it jumps up for 20 feet in the first year. And so it's like the jungle will take it back so quickly. And that's the other thing that's the dumb part of being a conservationist. It's like, if you just let tigers have some jungle with plenty of deer and don't shoot them with Rolls-Royce machine guns, they'll be fine. They've been here for millions of years. If you just stop cutting down the entire fucking Amazon rainforest, we'd stop talking about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We'd just be like, wow, this is an awesome place, the Amazon. It's super fun to go look for archaeological shit. It's filled with wildlife and medicine.
20% of the world's oxygen.
Yeah, and 20% of the world's fresh water. It's an amazing place. So cool. Hey, you want to go surfing? It'd be such a different reality, because we wouldn't be like, dude, they're ruining it.
Right.
But I think we'll get there.
But this is over in Machu Picchu. The ones you were talking about sounded like they were like in the heart of the darkness, in the middle of the Amazon.
Motherfucker didn't take my diversion. No, I did tell you that. And I did not anticipate being back here so soon. I can't give you much more information. I was thinking like, in like 3 years after I've gone there.
I don't believe you. I think you've been there. I'm going to have Andy give you a polygraph later.
Yo, fuck that. I'm not coming out to dinner.
We're meeting Emilio Bellatos with a fucking polygraph.
No, what I can tell you is this. I have everybody has to just chalk it up to, we all have our verifiable sources. If somebody tells you, I know a place where there's big fish. Okay, well, is this guy a dipshit or not? And it's like, well, some of the most hardcore, no joke local guys I know, not in the region I work, but not too far from there in the central Amazon, have uncovered the fact that there are pyramids beneath the canopy that nobody knows about. And here's the logistical problem, is that you can't go explore these pyramids because they are guarded by the uncontacted tribes.
They're guarded by them, or they are
living there. So whether they're living on them out of, oops, or they happen to be. It seems kind of a big swing of coincidence that there happen to be these amazing archaeological structures under the canopy of the Amazon, and the uncontacted people just happen to be living on them. Or have they been there for a long time, and is there a connection there?
Are we sure they're not aliens?
I'm almost positive that they're aliens. Don't tell anybody. Okay.
Your secret of mine.
Yeah. But again, one thing that's funny is that people underestimate how big the Amazon is. Like if this table was, we're flying in a plane, and this line is a river, and then this line is a river. In between those two rivers, no one's been there.
Yeah.
No one's been there. You can reliably walk to a spot in the forest and put your foot down and go, no human has stepped here.
What if the world just did like a giant invasion all at once from the air? Like just dropped every military in.
Just step every spot.
Yeah, everywhere.
Ha!
Just like we're here.
Be annoying.
It'd be very annoying, right? That would knock down a few trees.
No,
sure.
but what I'm saying though is that like when you look at where the archaeologists are able to go, where the botanists are able to go, where the wildlife biologists are able to go, a lot of them are the same sites. A lot of people, there's established research stations where people go to study tropical ecology, and that's where they go. And I could name them. I know where they are. But there's also sites where you could hire a guy with a helicopter and go 7 hours that way and have him drop you down on the side of a beach, and you're at the edge of a river that would take you 15 days to get to by boat. And if you made it, and when you go into that jungle, you walk in 2-3 days in one direction, and you're still 70 miles from the nearest major tributary. Nobody's surveyed that. Nobody from our world has surveyed that. Maybe an uncontacted person has wandered through there at some point in history, but century to century, nobody's crossing through that forest, which means the species that exist there, the medicines that are contained in those plants, there are things in that forest that we don't know about. And there is so much of that out in the Amazon. And people talk about the Amazon as if they can comprehend the size of it. Just like people, the ocean is this. No, you don't get to talk like that. When you're in a dinghy and there's 40-foot swells and there's thunderheads over you, then you tell me about what you think about the ocean with some respect. And when you see the Amazon and how big it is, when you're in a little tiny Cessna, it's just it's like the size of a Prius, and you just have these stupid wings and it's shaking, and you're flying over the jungle and you go, holy shit, if this thing goes down, it will be months before I reach civilization. And by that time, my flashlight will have worn out. I will not, even if you survive the plane crash, like your ability to do anything, it takes you right back to what I said, like go out in the rain onto a mountain and just survive one night. Do like a little one night episode of Alone with yourself.
It's nothing compared to it.
And it's not even a fraction of a % of what it's like to survive in the Amazon. And so when it's just funny when people are like, oh yeah, we've explored everything. It's like, really?
Oh, dude, that's the thing. Imagine like America, we're covered in nothing but ravenous canopy jungle, right? And imagine you're from New Jersey, which is on the far edge where there's actually, let's say you're in New York City, far edge where there's actually open space. It's not a jungle. Imagine just getting dropped in any one of the flyover states. We can't even navigate it today in some places.
I was going to say, how long, I remember reading, what was it, like George Washington to get from Philly to like New York, like it took like a few weeks.
I don't know if it's a few weeks, but it took a while.
Gotta be like 5 days. Like, come on,
couple
at
days.
least.
A couple days.
Actually, when I was coming here, I got on my maps this morning. It was like one eye open, and it was like, holy shit, it's really raining out. I hit the thing, and it gave me the walking instructions, and it was like 1 day and 7 hours, and I was like, cool.
Fuck it, I'll do it.
No, but it's like we forget. We get on a plane, and it's like you can get on a plane and be in the Amazon in like 8 hours.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like, whereas if that, then let's just say all planes were grounded and you had to walk back, you might not see mom again. Like, it's going to take you a while.
David Grand told a story in his book, and I haven't read it in a while, so I can't remember the exact details, but he told a story in his book about a Brazilian, like high-level, I think, businessman who wanted to be an explorer and find what Percy Fawcett was seeking to find El Dorado. And he went in there into the jungle, I believe, with a plane, a few guys, and one of them was like a son of his. So similar to Fawcett, by the way. And they were abducted by the Uncontacted Tribes.
That's it?
And somehow, no.
Never seen again?
No.
Oh.
They lived to tell the tale. Somehow they like negotiated leaving some shit for them and like got help in there to negotiate directly with the head of the tribe who spoke obviously no English.
Yeah.
And he got out. But they were like gonna kill them. And this is just, you know, some of these tribes, you can see pictures of it online. I don't know if we can pull it up, Chris, but type in Amazon Uncontacted Tribes. Don't lose that link, actually, what we have right there. Don't lose that. We need that. But type on a new, perfect. Amazon Uncontacted Tribes. Love it. All right, images. So like you see those, like the first and second ones there. So like we have some images when we go above, when we've had some helicopters and planes take shots of what appear to be tribes that are previously unrecognized in the Amazon. And it looks crazy, and they're looking at us like we're fucking aliens.
Yeah.
But even like there's what you're saying is there's layers and layers inside of them that make that look like new era.
Yeah. There's a lot of like this picture that we're zooming in on now is,
and they're trying to shoot at the fucking plane.
yeah.
What's that? What did you say? That's like 5-foot bamboo tip spears.
Yeah. Longer than that. They're like 7 foot.
Oh, that's nice.
They're like 7 foot arrows.
Have you had any run-in? Yeah, that looks like a ghost right there.
That looks terrifying.
Have you had any run-ins with Uncontacted since last time?
No. I think I learned my lesson.
Yeah, your one boy had like it slid, like edge of his head, almost killed him.
Yeah, he took an arrow to the head, but that I didn't realize how recently. When I talked to you last time, I didn't realize how recently he got shot. He was shot in 2019. That's not that long ago.
There was another one though when you were at my parents' house with Ryan before you and I recorded, and then you went back. It was August, so you went back to the Amazon because it was like fire season.
Oh yeah,
and you were texting me from
Did I
a
send
sat
you the dead
phone.
bodies?
They didn't get through if you did, but you were texting me the details from a sat phone, and you were like, "Yeah, one of the other guys' rangers was just killed by a fucking Uncontacted Tribe spear the other day." I'm like, "Oh my god, like they're everywhere."
Well, we share a border with them, so part of which is weird because JungleKeepers, you start out to protect rainforest, and then you realize you have to help the local people, and they're, you have loggers and gold miners, and you realize, these are people that just don't have an alternative, so you try and help them to become rangers, and so you employ them to become rangers, and then we're trying to protect more and more habitat because these roads keep trying to go around the reserve and then cut in. And so the more we protect, the more the roads try and cut in. So we're trying to make this ecological corridor, but as we come towards the national park, the Uncontacted Tribes are there. And so some of the land that we're protecting, we have to come up with a protocol to where the rangers have to be able to handle the fact that there are uncontacted people there. So you have to patrol in a different way. We have to use drone patrol. We have to just make sure there's no deforestation. We can even use up-to-date satellite imagery because you cannot have people in the vicinity.
Well, they
of these
hide.
people.
Sometimes they're hiding up in the trees.
Yeah, but I mean, as anybody that's a ranger for us at this point has a job and medical insurance, and it's a job. They're modern people, and you can't ask those people. Don't want you. If I told you have to, on your shift today, you got to just drive past those people.
No thanks.
You'd be like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to be eaten.
Yeah, that's a nightmare. So you think something like this could be guarding those pyramids? What do you said you didn't expect to be asked about it yet, but generally speaking, are we talking like more center-ish of the Amazon?
I can safely say I think it's in the center of the Amazon, but I obviously would never go to specificity on watershed.
All right.
I mean, if it's true, it's going to be one of the biggest, discoveries of
ever.
But
greatest ancient discovery in human history, potentially.
Maybe bigger than Machu Picchu. But the crazy thing about their arrows is that their arrows are tipped with bamboo, and you're talking about like a 17-inch tip. But I was talking to a partner organization's rangers, and they were going upriver on a patrol, and the Uncontacted just flung a warning shot out. Warning shot arrow hits the side of the boat, It's inch thick tropical hardwood, and the arrow went straight through it into the boat. And
Well,
luckily,
thanks for the warning. At least they know that.
luckily it wasn't where everybody was like down. Nobody got killed. But they said the way it just shattered the wood. Holy shit! And then I do know one scientist who put out camera traps in a very remote.
Put out camera traps?
Well, we use camera traps to monitor wildlife populations,
yeah.
right? So we do that all the time. I have camera traps out in the jungle right now. One guy got uncontacted tribes on those camera traps.
Did they see the camera?
I haven't seen him. He hasn't shown anybody, but I know he has them because I know who saw him.
What did he say about him?
Absolutely nothing, because it's like of all the Pokemon you could get on a camera trap, man. You check in, you're like, okay, that's it's a peccary. I got a jaguar, I got a deer, and then like a giant fucking ground sloth walks by on a leash with an uncontacted guy, and you're like, oh shit.
Well, we're gonna need to get that guy in here and sit him across from us with the videos and break them down, because that'll be nuts. But you're working on another book right now, no?
Oh yeah, that's
what's the
full-time.
concept?
That is okay. So if Mother of God is, I dreamed of going to the Amazon. I got to the Amazon, big snakes, adventures, JJ, everything great. By the end of Mother of God, we're getting into the realm of the time where we started to realize that we were seeing forest destroyed. And so here I am in my early 20s, watching forest get burned to the ground, standing beside this indigenous conservationist who's devoted his life to protecting the Amazon. And I remember saying to JJ, who do we call? This is unacceptable. This is horrendous. It's damaging to watch. It's heartbreaking to lose. Who do we call to stop this from happening? And he looked at me and he goes, we're out past where the police go. We're out past society. There is no one out here. He goes, if we want to do anything, we have to do it. But at that time, the concept of us doing anything about it was so insane, because you're talking about the Trans-Amazon Highway, like Brazil, China, these massive geopolitical forces that are conspiring to take apart the Amazon rainforest. And so going from I like the jungle and I like snakes to how do we start forming something? How do you start? So this book includes like that story that I was telling you about catching the largest anaconda with the whole team. Like that was post Mother of God. That happened after that.
Yeah. Yeah. You wrote Mother of God years ago now.
Years ago.
Yeah.
And so even by the time I had the luck of getting to meet Jane Goodall and having, I asked if she would endorse the book, and she read some chapters and she gave me an endorsement for that book. But that happened after I wrote the book.
Yeah.
And it's like that was a major event. And so forming JungleKeepers, deciding as we're standing there on the side of a river, bare feet with machetes, we call it the Barefoot Machete Days. We're standing there and saying we cannot watch this forest get taken apart. We had this impossible challenge, which was how do we stop the trees from falling? How do we stop the systemic forces that are destroying this forest? And it's the story of how we went from that to being the JungleKeepers and protecting 50,000 acres, and how basically an indigenous-led conservation initiative somehow managed to go global. And now we have supporters from all over the world.
That's an amazing thing.
We have, it's
you
just...
did that.
I was part of it. And most of it, everything goes back in the end to JJ. So a large part of this book is going to be really delving into him and what he knows and getting that down.
Oh,
so for example, that ayahuasca story that I told you, like that shaman died during COVID.
Oof.
Now think about this. All of his grandparents who knew all of those medicinal compounds that taught him all the ways of the forest, did he teach it to his kids? Did he have time to teach everything to his kids before he died? Because if he didn't, there might be a dead end. We might have lost something. There might have been a light that went out when he died.
Oh, that's terrifying.
And so there's a thing that's happening with indigenous knowledge where, the new generation, you have this old guy who lives in the forest like JJ's dad or Don Ignacio, the shaman. And these guys grew up in the forest and they lived in the forest, and you can see it in the calluses on their feet. They're weathered old faces, and they're old hombres de la selva. And then their kids are wearing Air Jordans and on TikTok. And there's a huge break.
Yes.
And so I got to see a little bit of the old guard. I got to hang out with JJ's dad. You know, now people come, you know, we get people for the treehouse or people come and we tell stories, and it's like Don Santiago is this mythical person. And we have that bond that, you know, at least I got to meet him. You know, at least we got to hang out with him.
You're going to write about that.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so going from, you know, a bunch of dudes on the side, I mean, I was 18 and he was 32. And now when I show him silly comments on YouTube, he puts on his glasses and he's watching and he's like, this is funny. And like, it's been a minute.
Well, we got to get JJ in here as well.
Yeah,
we talked about that last time. It'd be amazing to do a podcast with you guys. So let's try to hook that up. But we do. I got Jim DiOrio blowing us up to get to Emilio Bellato's for this reservation. So I'm not done, but I know you're not done
either.
But,
I want people.
We're gonna have to cut it off. But look, this link, JungleKeepers,
here.
gonna be down in the description below, as well as a link to Paul's Instagram and any other links. Go follow. Go give some money to JungleKeepers. You know exactly where it's going. It's going to this guy to do what he does. We'll have you back in when you're putting out that book within the next year or so, I guess.
Hopefully.
Something like that.
Yeah, next year at this time, we'll make it a yearly tradition, man.
But good luck going back down there again. You're doing amazing work, and we love supporting it here. Thank you, brother.
Appreciate it.
All right, dude. Everybody else, you know what it is. Give it a thought. Get back to me. Peace. Thank you guys for watching the episode. Before you leave, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and smash that like button on the video. It's a huge help. And also, if you're over on Instagram, be sure to follow the show at Julian Dorey Podcast, or also on my personal page at Julian D. Dorey. Both links are in the description below. Finally, if you'd like to catch up on our latest episodes, use the Julian Dorey Podcast playlist link in the description below. Thank you.